For WBUR, Kirsten Culkhurst.
Hello, welcome. We've got a few stragglers coming in. It's so great to see everyone here. What a great space to convene in, particularly for innovation. Who here, is this your first time at City Space? Show of hands. Oh, nice, great. I'm delighted that we're able to actually dim the back so you can get a sense of how beautiful the lighting is in here. At some point during the afternoon, we'll lift it and you will be amazed at the fact that the T is right next to us and you will never hear it or feel it. So it's a pretty amazing space and we're happy to have you. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. If you could please just turn off your cell phone ringer. And also, for your awareness, the exits are located, of course, where you came in, as well as in the back right corner of the building. So we're going to hear from some incredible thought leaders today. And I cannot imagine a better time in history to be having these conversations, or, of course, I'm biased, a better space. WBUR has been convening thought leaders to set the agenda and to have conversations about the most consequential issues of our time for almost 75 years. And I said almost, because next year is actually our official 75th anniversary, our 75th birthday. I know, we're pretty excited about it, thank you. We are going to throw a huge party the city's never seen before. We are going to have the WBUR Festival. We're going to launch it here in May. It's going to cover 3 days, multiple stages, multiple venues, right here on Comm Ave at our home base in the center of the city. Imagine something like the New Yorker Festival or the Aspen Ideas Festival right here in Boston. And when I say that, doesn't it just sort of make you think, why have we never done this before? That's what I thought for sure. So we're going to be converging the brightest minds. We're going to be talking to all kinds of people from various industries. And we're hoping that people will find captivating conversations. We're going to have some beautiful performances as well, because this is a city of incredible arts and culture. And of course, some very amazing experiences as well. We're going to bring together people who are looking to deepen their knowledge, as well as people who would like to make connections, and also that want to have a great time. So I'm not going to go on about that except to give you this last shameless plug, which is we are making some incredibly powerful and compelling customized sponsorships for businesses. So if this sounds like something you might like to talk to us about, I hope that you will find us and have those conversations. So thank you so much again for joining us. And without further ado, I'm going to welcome to the stage Tom Peterson from the Ad Club to get this party started.
Thank you, Kirsten, for having us in your wonderful space. I was talking with my friend Jill just now, and she asked when the last Media Innovation Day was, which was 2019. So it's been a long time, and it's nice to see so many familiar faces back. I was also speaking with Aaron, and he said he needed to meet Kate McCabe. You might wonder why you get emails at 3 a.m. Kate is actually out of our one-person Switzerland office and can't be here, so you won't meet her. But I just want to thank her because she does so much on the media auction, which started this past Monday, hopefully you guys all know, and ends on the 4th. The money raised goes to our programming, as well as these are the 15 scholars we've given financial aid to. We've also done some internships, and we hope that some of them will become part of our marketing ecosphere at some point. A couple thank yous before we get going with the terrific content we have. Our terrific Media Innovation Day / auction committee. They helped with content ideas, also donating, and also a lot of the folks are buyers. A lot of people have bid already, so thank you very much. And then our sponsors for the day. Obviously, we couldn't do it without you, so thank you very much. With that, let's welcome our first speaker. And Gogi Gupta is the founder of Gupta Media, which is a performance marketing agency specializing in media buying, creative design, and technology solutions. Gogi and his team have united data, technology, and human ingenuity to redefine what is possible for clients seeking to supercharge their marketing. They have worked with some of the best brands in the world, including Amazon, Disney, Fender, Fidelity, Sony Music, and local favorites in Island Creek Oysters, and the Levitate brand, which does the terrific festival down in Marshfield. Gogi is also one of our board members and is heavily involved in making our club a success. He also has a terrific logo and some great company swag, so you might want to hit him up at the break. With that, please welcome Gogi.
Good afternoon, everyone. When the ad club, before we get started, I just wanted to take a second and recognize Barb. She has brought so much life back to the ad club. I remember the 2019 Media Innovation Day and how exciting that was, and obviously the pandemic. And it is just wonderful to see a room full of people that care about this industry all together. And Barb and her team have really willed that back to happen. I think under different leadership, maybe it doesn't happen, but I'd like to just take a second to acknowledge the hard work. When they asked about giving the speech, I am sure all of us have sat through 1,000 boring speeches. So my goal is to maybe not bore you. Innovation is such an interesting word, right? Because it has this connotation that you're going to do something better tomorrow than you did today. And that also means that you have to stop doing what you're doing today to change it and do it tomorrow. And I think that, what I love about working in advertising, I was a public policy major. I didn't think I'd work in advertising. I thought I would be a partner at a Big Four accounting firm. What I love about advertising is this intersection of people that are creative, they're data-minded, they're storytellers, they understand the human. And when they talk to you about advertising, they never say you can work at this intersection of all the things that matter. But advertising is that. But I think we do ourselves a disservice. And I'd like to just sort of run through that. So when we talk about this culture of innovation, help me. What do you see in your mind's eye when you think of culture? Anybody? People. Diversity. Go ahead. Art. I'm sure you see teamwork, right? When you think of culture, when you think of your workplace culture, when I think of it, it is all the things we want and what we're trying to achieve in the work, right? We want teammates that we like. We want transparency from management. We want clear communication. We want people that we like working with. We want the work to matter. There's all these things that would make us happy going to work, right? And I think that if you look at it, if we went around the room, I think you guys would all call out different things, and we would end up something, most of the things you yelled out would end up on a board like this, right? Flexibility, accountability, opportunity. And if I asked you what you saw, I think you would end up with a picture that looks something like this. And you can take this picture and you can apply it to a workplace setting. But whoever said people, I think you see people. I think you see people talking to each other. I think you see people supporting each other. I think you see people having fun. And I think that if you're in this room, you care about the craft of advertising. But I also think that if you're in this room, you probably care about the industry at large. You are probably a leader at your company. You probably have influence in how your company is run. And I think this image, if we could sort of have the sun setting, the warm glow of sunset, it's a very nice picture of what culture could look like. But I think this picture creates what's called an anchoring bias, right? And it's really important that if you get the wrong image in your head, you start making the wrong decisions, right? Because what you're saying is that I want to build a culture where teamwork and flexibility, all those things that we had talked about, all those things are the most important. And where I think that us as an industry will do better is if we roll that picture back, right? And say like, what we're trying to really deliver for our clients or for our coworkers is something closer to this, right? A culture, right? And a petri dish is a very specific type of culture, right? And when you take those two pictures and you say, nobody ever says, I want to build a culture that looks like this. This looks clinical, right? It looks kind of gross. But it's actually, I think, the better way to think of the environment that you want to build that delivers growth, right? If we always have to think about what does somebody else feel, who had that idea, you know, is that the group consensus? I think we slow down innovation, right? And when we think about this as a petri dish, right? And that it's an environment that's optimized for growth, right? It is very much built around you put something in and it grows. And I think if you think about that, right, this anchoring bias that says if you have one image, you optimize toward that. If you have another image, you actually optimize to that, right? So at work, what we try to do is create a culture that allows for growth, right? And you know, I have the honor of going first today. So I'm saying this so you can maybe take in the rest of the programming with a different lens, right? You can think about it and say like, the decisions I'm gonna make, how do they change how people at my company look at opportunity? How do we say yes or no to ideas? And I'll give you some practical ideas on how you can sort of make some small changes. One of the things that I'm most proud of at Gupta Media, the agency is about 75 people, the media team is about 50 people. The media team is broken into 6 different smaller media teams. The average tenure of the leadership, the average tenure, not average years of experience, is 12 years. So we have, you know, I don't know, if you've worked in advertising long enough, you probably know most people don't stick around for 12 years anywhere. The 7 most senior people on our media team have been there for 12 years. So I think I have some license to talk about building a culture of innovation, a culture that is high performing, a culture where, you know, it's not about sort of a peaceful coexistence, but it is about a safe space, a trustful space that's optimized for growth. But before we talk about how we build it, Bill Belichick has a great expression that says, before you learn how to win, you have to learn how not to lose. And this would be the how not to lose part. So how do you kill innovation? And I will also take this moment to remind you that I run a performance marketing agency. I like numbers probably more than anyone you've ever met. I go and sell and talk about the value that we're going to be delivering. It is not a creative sale. It is a hard, you give us $1, we give you 3 back. You can measure every day. When you turn it off, it stops working. But the number one way that we are going to kill as an industry this culture of innovation is asking this question. If I could make this go away, if I could wish this away, I would. Right? And I say that running a performance marketing agency. This question, every time you say it, kills culture, that culture of innovation, right? And I think we've all said it with the best intentions. I was talking to somebody out there, and there was a comment. It was basically like, you know, it was a tough year last year, and you see those dollars move down funnel. Everybody gets safe. Right? Everybody gets safe and they say, I know I won't get in trouble if I recommend Meta, if I recommend search, if I move all of those dollars down funnel, push come to shove, I can always point to the numbers. The click-through rates are going to be great. The return on ad spend is going to be great. You know, you won't get fired, right? Moving dollars down funnel, it's the smart thing to do. Except it gets really boring, right? Is anybody else feeling that? That advertising is like, I don't think we got into this industry to say, you know what, I know how to build the absolute perfect meta campaign. Or I can structure a search campaign that has no overlap between branded terms and non-branded terms, and we have mapped ads to the search queries with perfection. Like, that just seems a little bit boring, right? And we get into this death spiral of smaller and smaller and smaller with the best intentions of saying, what was the ROAS, right? So next time you find yourself saying, what was the ROAS? Just know you are sucking the air out of innovation, right? We can debate at 3:30. I think titles, and we have created so many titles at Gupta Media, it's incredible. If you want a new title every year, you can have a new title every year. Because it looks good on LinkedIn, right? It does. And people want to know they're moving up. But I think that titles, that's another way that you're going to kill innovation. I think everybody should be thinking like the CMO. And when you start thinking like the CMO, you take a junior person and say, stop thinking like a media specialist, right? Stop thinking like a junior copywriter. We will actually get all of our organizations to be focused on the thing that really matters, right? Demand generation, demand fulfillment, creating positive sentiment, creating all of the things that we actually want to do in our professional lives. And I think you have to do that by hiring smart, passionate, jaggedy. I don't know if Andrew Graff is in the room, but he calls them purple squirrels. I heard that term. I've been thinking about it for 6 months. I have no idea why it's called purple squirrels, but the type of person that they're a good writer, and then all of a sudden they start playing guitar, and they travel a lot. And it turns out they watch a lot of 1980s films, and they're just interesting, right? Advertising has always been driven by those interesting people. But slowly, we are replacing interesting people with data analysts, right? And I would challenge, in the spirit of Media Innovation Day, in the spirit of building advertising that really works, when you make these decisions and you trade out sort of the crazy, person that doesn't fit in a box for most of my data scientists are from Brown, so I'll just say, and you put in a data scientist from Brown, you have to at least acknowledge that you are making the game a little bit smaller, right? You will drive incremental gains, but you probably won't drive that 10x and 100x gains that makes advertising fun. So titles and smart people, they don't really work together, right? Find smart people and just let them do what they're going to do, right? Challenge them. Beware the hippo. Just a quick show of hands. How many people here have the highest title in their organization? Barb, you better raise your hand. I do. The hippo is the highest paid person's opinion. It kills innovation. If I speak first, nobody speaks after me, right? If I say this is the way to do it, everyone says, Gogi said that's the way to do it, and they stop thinking. I have to train myself to throw an idea in a room and walk out of the room and then come back an hour, a day, a week later and see where that team has gone. But this idea of my opinion being so stifling, right? I didn't start this agency there was no big grant. I was never the star at another agency. I spun off. I was unemployed. I was broke, and I needed a job. So back in 2001, I started an ad agency, right? It's worked out all right. But when you come up that way, you never realize the effect that your shadow has, right? My mom, who has the highest EQ I've ever met, when she comes to the office, she goes, people stop breathing when you're around. And I thought that was a ridiculous thing to say. And I asked a couple people, Sarah Noel, who's over there on my team, would say, yeah, 100% true. Jess Dashner, who's coming up on her 16-year anniversary with Gupta Media, would probably also say the same thing, right? It has a big impact. So if you want to build a culture of innovation and you have a big title, you have to know the distortive effect that it has. And if you understand that and you start learning how to speak slower and second, you will actually create space for innovation to happen. And the older I get, the less innovative I get, the less street cred I have, the less on trend I am. And that's hard to understand. I'm 46, right? There's nobody in the world that thinks I'm cool, right? But I have to create space for people that are cool. And I have to give them, how does it happen on TikTok, right? And instead of being dismissive on, we should spend our money on Meta because that always returns the highest ROAS, right? As much as TikTok would like us to believe that culture starts on TikTok, culture might start on TikTok today, all right? Let's talk about how to build a culture of innovation. One thing that everybody that's ever worked for me says is that I push ideas hard, like really hard. Hard on ideas, kind on people, but hard on ideas. And I think that we are getting to the point where I think we're a little scared to be hard on ideas, right? Like, how do we push on an idea so hard that it breaks and we understand how it works? I love ripping things apart, the who, what, why, when, where. If you sell media and you have come to Gupta Media, I am sure you have felt 35 people ask you 100 questions and feel like it was just like a peppering of questions. That's the culture that we try to build, right? It is not be nice to our sales reps. It is they're coming. We're going to ask them everything about how this works. And I think it's really important, if you think about this idea of world-class work. If you're really going to put world-class work into the marketplace, the idea that you didn't do has to be exceptional, right? Number 2, the first thing that didn't make the cut is an exceptional idea. Number 3 is a very good idea. Number 4 through 10 are probably also very good ideas. Number 11 through 20 are good ideas, right? I always say that you can measure, like, before somebody shows me the idea that they're most excited about, I want to see the ideas that almost made it. And if there's none of those, the ideas didn't get pushed hard enough. If there's lots of ideas and I fall in love with number 5 and then fall in love with number 3 and can't imagine that something's going to be better than number 2, there's a very good chance that number 1 is a fantastic idea, right? So in this room, as we go about, the rest of today, and when we leave and go about, like, push ideas hard. Let's get back to that a little bit. I think it makes our job more fun. I think it lets us go talk to our clients and have some spine and say, like, the lower funnel campaign on Meta is not the best way for you to spend your ad dollars, right? There's better ways to do it. I think we don't push our people hard enough, right? I think that, and this is that anchoring bias, if we care so much about camaraderie and teamwork and happiness on a day-to-day basis, I don't think we get to that spot where we're pushing people to be their best. And I don't know the culture at your company. I will tell you that when people are the happiest at Gupta is when they have been working on something for a long time and it finally works. And they are, they thought idea 1 would work. It did not. Idea 2 did not. Idea 3, they were sure, and it got kicked out of my office or somebody else's office. And there's a little bit of this valley of despair, right? And then they crack it. And it's a 8 a.m. email on Saturday that says, like, I finally figured it out. I think that's when people are happiest, right? And it's not, if you sort of zone in on Saturday morning at 8 a.m., they are not happiest then. They're kind of annoyed that work has crossed this work-life boundary. But when you zoom out, they think they're doing the best work of their career. All right? And then I think it's important that we make space for pushy people, right? People that sort of mess things up, that never stop talking. And I'm not saying toxic people. That's a whole different HR world that I'm not going to unpack. I'm saying pushy people. People that are just like never satisfied. And I think that they get an unfair reputation, right? And I just challenge you guys to find the pushy person, the person that works really hard, that just sees the world differently, and make space for them. And then the last idea for you is celebrating good ideas that fail. And this is a new idea even for me. Every 6 months we do what's called bragathon. There's every team at the company, we do something that looks like this. Every team at the company gets 3 minutes. And it's like a fun, there's beers, there's laughing and high-fiving. But the managers stand up and talk about the best projects they've done. And it's like really, really fun. As I was building this, I said, you know what? We always talk about the stuff that wins, and that was great. We're going to add like the worst ideas of the last 6 months. And it's going to be like a safe space for you to say, like, I thought this. I can't believe how much money I spent. I can't believe how much time I spent. I was sure this thing was going to work. And we're going to create space for these worst ideas, or the good ideas that fail, right? And it has to be a good idea, right? That's why you need the smart, multidisciplinary, jaggedy, pushy people. Good ideas that fail should have a spot in your company. And I'll leave you with this, right? If you get it right, if you create an environment where people can be successful and you optimize it, right? It's the right temperature, it has the right reagents in it. You will actually build a culture of innovation that is really fun to work in. And that culture and the culture are two different images, right? And I just ask you not to get anchored on the first one and get anchored on these. Thank you for the time.
Please welcome our moderator, Global Managing Director, Havas Media, Ben Downing.
Retail media growth is on a tear, with global ad spend projected to reach $153 billion in 2024. That reflects nearly 14% year-on-year growth. It now accounts for nearly 20%, yes, of all digital ad spending globally. And it's on track to overtake linear TV within the next few years. The US continues to be the center of gravity. Retail media networks are leveraging first-party data to offer enhanced targeting capabilities and unparalleled measurement with impact through the funnel, all future-proofed beyond the cookie. You may know retail media advertising that takes place within retailer-owned digital environments. But it's not only e-commerce websites or mobile apps, it's also audio ads or even in-store digital networks. There's a lot here. And not all platforms in this space, of course, operate as traditional retailers. There's the complementary and distinct category of commerce or mobility media. This type of advertising is one of the most exciting spaces to be in today. It's where some of the most exciting advertising innovation is happening. So I'm thrilled to have two industry leaders in the space join us today to unpack this for us. So introducing, come on up, we have Kristin Di Coletto, Head of Marketing, CVS Media. Round of applause, please. Thank you. And Shane Dwyer, Head of Sales, Lyft Media and Lyft Business. Thank you. Have a seat. Very, very pumped for this discussion, and we really are lucky to have two brilliant leaders, thought leaders in the space to join us on stage for this great session. So first, can you give us an intro to your network and talk us through what makes it unique? Shane, we're going to come to you first on this.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. I can't see anybody out there, but those pictures up there are awesome. We look so happy in those pictures, and I feel like really happy sitting under that picture.
I'm not smiling.
I'm
smiling inside.
Yeah, but you have an accent. You're smart. It all works. great to be here. Fun known fact, I started my career in Boston in advertising, creating space or having space being created for me. I love that. 22 years ago at Arnold Worldwide, which is not actually the name of the company anymore, it was Havas. And then Tom Peterson over here from the Ad Club gave me my first sales job at Time Magazine, 20 years ago. So it's nice to be back. That was not the question. The question is, what's our retail media network? So I would say what we're doing, I work at Lyft Media. I've been there for about 18 months. And we're building an advertising business within the walls of a large business. And the way that I define retail media or commerce media, which it's maybe a little bit different, Kristen, than from the way that you guys look at it. But it's basically a platform that has massive amounts of transactional data. And they use that transactional data to build identity graphing, to utilize marketers, enable marketers to utilize it for targeting, and ultimately to provide a first-party closed-loop measurement solution. We are in a very different retail media business. We are in the business of selling rides. So we're not selling toothbrushes and deodorant and all the important things that I get at CVS. I'm a loyal CVS person that attends and buys online. But we sell millions of rides. We sell a couple 100 million rides every single quarter. So we use that data to identify who are our consumers, who are our riders, where do they live, where are they going, where have they been, and build this identity graph for marketers to utilize for marketing purposes. So it's transactional data for identity graphing to ultimately drive performance with hopefully some creative ideas along the way.
So I love that. We're getting started with expanding the definition into this idea of a mobility network or a commerce network. Kristen, can you kind of talk us through, ground us a little bit with CVS Media Exchange, talk us through what you're doing there?
Sure, happy to. So CVS Media Exchange, or CMX, was actually started by Diego Vacarezza, who we have here. It was originally CME, and the premise before retail media was even a thing was to use our ExtraCare data base, which is over 74 million loyalty members, that we're able to connect with brands to really help them on their path to better health. So CVS Media Exchange is the retail media network for CVS Health. And everything we do is rooted in that first-party data and working with our CPG partners to help customers discover new brands, new products that really are rooted in that trust that they have with CVS as a leader in the health and wellness space.
I love that. One of the things I am particularly interested in coming from Europe is this real nice transaction between consumers for their data, better ad experience, and some great experiences through the products. I'm going to come back to you again, first of all here, Kristen. So how should retail commerce media networks be integrated into the broader e-commerce and the kind of omnichannel strategies of retailers? Big question, but...
Yeah, it's definitely the what and the how. With retail media, originally, it was definitely more of an on-site, lower funnel play. But today, retail media networks and commerce players are able to reach customers through all channels. So it's definitely it should be a staple in almost all brands' media plans. We're able to reach customers, at the top of the funnel through CTV and radio. We're also able to reach them through search on site. And we know that around 60% of those customers who come to CVS.com are actually driven in store within 2 days to make that purchase, that product that they saw on site. And then in store, they're hearing those ads on our in-store programmatic radio, seeing our digital screens to really help them discover, again, those products that they're looking for.
I think ours is it's a little different, right? But it's so correlated to what you guys are doing. So if we sit on all of this transactional data and we know so much about our customer, just like you guys know so much about your customer, how can we surround them when they're in their ride? So the average ride time, and whether it's Lyft or Uber, you guys are all open to make your own decisions. I'll give you a little stat. There's about 6 million rides in the US that happen every single day, and we do a little north of 2 of them. So about 34% market share, which is a lot of rides, right? So we're thinking about how do we deliver ads that are very targeted to where you're going. If you're going to Post Malone tonight and you're taking a ride home, you've probably had a drink or two and you might want to go through Taco Bell, right? I don't know. Is that like am I projecting myself right now? I might be. I don't know.
Other restaurants are available.
So I know that. So anyway, so to think about how do you deliver a really targeted ad in that moment, sight sound enabled, motion enabled, but also like we're putting screens in the back of our vehicles. So you guys may have seen some of those and some of your rideshare vehicles to surround from an omni-channel perspective. But at the same time, it's like you said, it's all about how do you find that data and use that data as like a seed audience and identify those users outside the walls of like your platform, right? Like we're not walled gardens. I would say we're hedged gardens right now. So we're going to do sort of partnerships with other platforms that there's an interesting one that I actually have an idea that we should talk about, but like that we can go find audiences that make sense for us. So after you see an ad in our ride, it actually probably makes a lot of sense to retarget that person with a similar ad with sequential messaging for the next week or two to build that frequency. Or in the ride itself, if it's 27 minutes, how do we go find you, not only in the Lyft app and in the screens that are in the back of the car, but also like when you're listening to audio or when you're in through the broader open web through the DSP of choice that you guys are working with. So I think there's a lot there. I think with respect to us, we do a lot of volume of rides to CVS retail. Every single day, every single week, every single month. You think about your business and how you're not only reaching people like outside of the walls of CVS and also inside
Like he's
screens.
doing a sales pitch right now.
What? I just like kind of thought about it this morning. Like, what if we like had an opportunity for you guys to like? No, I'm not trying to sell ads right now.
This is
by any means.
You're watching innovation happen.
This is we're making space for innovation right now. This is like hedged garden style. Like if I'm selling a product in your retailer or on your shop, and I'm going to your store, it's actually a pretty good time because you're going to reinforce that message with your screens. So in that last mile, I think that's an interesting opportunity to market to someone who's going to go shopping. I'm not selling, I promise you, but just an example of sort of like the evolution, I think, of where this is going.
Future exciting evolution. But
I'm so excited.
You guys are working together at the moment, right? So can you expand a little bit more about how advertising across both platforms can enhance user experience with the product or brand? You've given us a sort of future and current facing example there, but let's expand on that because I think that's really interesting, this concept of hedge garden cooperation and experience across the platforms.
Yeah, we really work really closely with our brands, and one of the goals of our platform is to make sure that we're delivering really personalized, relevant messaging. And we know that's really important to our Extra Care loyalty members, right? They're our customers first, and the brands are looking to grow the relationship with our customers. And we want to make sure that it's done in a really meaningful and relevant way. And so we need to make sure that we're holding true, one, to our customers, but also to our organization. And so how do we, again, use that data to not only find those customers, but to deliver them relevant messages? And sometimes it's during really challenging times, right? We're a health and wellness retailer. We're the most trusted retailer in the US. And so how do we make sure that we use that platform and that experience so that when they're looking, they might have a sick child in the middle of the night, right? That they're able to quickly find the products that they need. They're able to access them in an easy way. And that, again, that we're delivering them the best possible price. And so we work really closely as well with our Extra Care loyalty team to make sure that it's really full funnel in terms of price and personalization throughout the funnel.
What I find fascinating about that is within healthcare, such an important, such a personal category, and building that, we call it media experience. It's the only plug I'm going to do today. We call it media experience at Havas is a really, really hard but really important work, and you see that in the network. Other retail media networks are available, but CVS Media Exchange, good media experience. to another commerce network, talk us through your experience, Shane.
So it's funny, like trying to build an ads business like in a company that's hyper focused on the customer. And we actually have multiple customers. We have the drivers. That's our first customer. So we have 1.3 million drivers that are in our marketplace. And if we don't have drivers, we don't have a business. So we have to pay the drivers. So as we're building an ads business inside the walls of Lyft, we're trying to figure out like what are the products that can actually one, encourage drivers to want to participate in the network that we're building out, and two, how can we actually like compensate them in a way that actually makes it like meaningful and makes them want to drive for us. So that is like a really big focus, and we have a whole drivers organization that focuses on things like that. And then I think from the customer, we're starting to look at things like almost like rewarded rides, or it's kind of like similar to what retail media is doing with sponsored listings or percentage off of specific products. Our products are obviously rides, like we were saying. So if we can provide a percentage off of a ride, there's two reasons why you cross shop, and we see about 60% of all rideshare users cross shop. It's for speed, right? It's for price. It's those two things. So if we can give either a discount on the ride, a faster priority pickup for the ride, like you're leaving Fenway after Pearl Jam. I'm sure there were some people at Pearl Jam last night, and hope you're all feeling good. But if you were leaving Pearl Jam, and you could actually brought to you by a brand, get a pickup faster than if you didn't, that's a pretty cool product that we're excited about. So we're trying to figure out how can you give something to the end user brought to you by a marketer and enable that marketer to inject their brand message in that moment, right? Which is a really aha moment. It's like when you get upgraded on a plane, you're like, oh, this is awesome. So brought to you by, whoever. So those are the types of ways that we're thinking about. It's really what's good for the driver, and then also what can we give back to the passenger to make the ad experience a better user journey for them.
Another complex series of problems to solve, but one that you're both solving brilliantly. So let's talk about getting started with retail media networks. Some of us might be new, some of us might be educating ourselves. Shout out to our brilliant Havas team, Molly Hop, our head of commerce, who has educated me, and our two brilliant folks on stage. But we might have some people in the audience who are hearing this and want to get started. So Kristen, coming to you first, CVS Media Exchange, how do we get started?
Well, with all retail media networks now, there's so many options, and we actually just recently launched our self-serve platform through the trade desk as well. So you can work directly with our sales team, who oversees all of our advertiser partnerships. That's both with CPG and with agencies. Or you can access our platform directly through the trade desk as well. And we really, when you come to us on the managed service side, we really take a personalized approach with our advertisers as well to really understand your business. What are your goals and objectives that you're trying to reach with the campaign? Who's the audience? Really creating customized audiences, finding the right channels where those customers are, providing you access to a real-time dashboard so that you can see the performance of the campaign while it's in market, meeting with our account team and our media partners, planners, to optimize that campaign real time. And then the real benefit is that closed loop reporting at the end, which directly ties back the correlation one-to-one with that first party audience so that we can really show those full funnel metrics as to how the campaign performed as well. So there's lots of options to get started and to continue to work with us, however, is a right fit for your brand and your clients.
Love that. As the moderator, I get the privilege to ask my own stupid questions and disguise them as being the moderator. But ad formats, there are lots of ad formats, right?
There's a lot of ad formats, and we're launching new ones all the time. We really take a lead from what our enterprise media partners are doing. What is resonating with our CVS customers, our Extra Care loyalty members? Where are they in the media universe? What new channels are emerging that we know are performing for CVS? We're testing our dollars first, and then offering those through CMX to our advertiser partners.
Smart. It's like you're testing and learning from what you guys are actually putting in market and then applying that to your business. I'm just, Kristen, jealous of where your business is, because you guys are like light years ahead of where we are. Like we said, or like I said earlier, we just launched ads in our app a year ago. So it's like super nascent right now, and we're really, I mean, it's super exciting because of all the opportunities. So to your point, like how do you get started? To answer that question, we first and foremost hired some salespeople. Like, you know, it's kind of what you do, right, to help service the industry. Built a team. Some of them are here on the East Coast and a team on the West Coast, and we're kind of filling in the gaps in the Midwest right now, which is really exciting as we staff out, you know, account managers and creative strategists and sellers and you know, designers to help with, you know, creative dev, because it's like the creative in this space is very different than the old school like 300 by 250. You know, so we need creative strategy to recommend what is the right creative that is going to perform within the right part of our ride or off network. So we're building that kind of managed service motion that you'd mentioned that is really like the crux of our business today. But and I saw my good friend Jeff Millay over here from the trade desk. Good to see you, Jeff. So we're doing the same thing, right? Like we're kind of like shampoo affecting what you guys are doing and really learning from the broader and bigger and larger retail media networks that have been doing this for a while and trying to identify how do we allow marketers in the space to transact programmatically. So having conversations with the trade desk, having conversations with other DSPs, having conversations with companies that can actually help us build our own self-serve solution. Congrats on launching that. That's amazing. We need a Lyft Ads Manager, right? Like I was at Snapchat for almost 8 years. Like I saw it go from IO-based to, and that's where we're at right now at Lyft, to programmatic. And we had our own ads manager. And whether it's a managed, you know, service with account managers managing from the ad manager, or it's a self-serve solution, I'm really bullish on our business because I believe that with about 35-ish% of our rides going to retail and restaurants, if we can build a product that enables a small restaurant to go buy sponsored rides to get someone to come to their location, that we can't service that from a managed service, not an enterprise solution, but like if that's an SMB play and it's self-serve, like to me that's a flywheel. And if we can prove it out with our first-party transactional data, like that's a real business model that I think like has a huge opportunity right now. So again, very envious of where you guys are. We are a few years behind you, but we're working to make it easy to access our inventory, our data, our supply, and our off-network audience extensions anywhere and everywhere.
I mean, it's extraordinary hearing the speed of the innovation, and you know, more and more people in the industry are talking about this. It is going mainstream. It is mainstream, but this is incredible, right? This is where media is happening. We've got this extremely fast, extremely agile launch of a great self-serve product, and you're creating entirely new ad experiences with the data you have. So this is just a fascinating space. I'm going to ask the question. It's the KPI question, and I promise, with respect to our keynote speaker today, I'm not going to talk about ROAS. You guys may choose to. What metrics and KPIs should folks use to get started to measure the success of their advertising? How should they think about that from an attribution, marketing mix modeling? What are the kind of things they should be thinking about getting started?
Yeah. Unfortunately, like all of you, we're really held to the KPIs that our advertisers, you know, want us to deliver back to them. But I think one of the things that we're most proud of is our partnership with the IAB. And we actually led standardization across commerce this year. And so the IAB rolled out commerce retail media standards for measurement. And so we're really transparent in what we measure and how we measure it. We know from talking to our advertisers that one of their biggest pain points working with retail media is that it does seem like a walled garden, that they're not transparent with how we measure and what we measure. And we want our advertisers to be able to compare retail media network to retail media network to commerce partner and player, so that they know how their dollars are performing across their entire portfolio, because that's just going to make us all get better. I think that's one of the great things about commerce is that we are all working really closely together and with the IAB to create that transparency and measurement. We also rolled out, and we're one of the first to roll out attributable sales with Pinterest, who obviously is a walled garden. So again, our partnership with the Trade Desk and with LiveRamp enables us to do that, to share those files back. with us, so we know exactly who saw the ad, how they engaged with the ad, and then what they purchased at CVS. And what there was in their total basket. So we can share a lot with our advertisers so that they can get better, not only with CMX, but with all of their media partners.
Yeah, similar again, but like a little behind you, right? I would say first and foremost, as we went to market, we went on this listening tour for probably, I don't know, 8 months, where we just asked everyone, like, what do you need? How can we scale? What are the partners that you need us to onboard in order to like actually check a box so we can like participate in your RFP process, right? So that's like table stake stuff, DCM integrations, live ramp integrations, trying to figure out things like Kantar and Nielsen for brand lift studies, or NCS or Nielsen for sales lift studies. Now it's the viewability, IAS and DV, and we just launched Foursquare to add on top of our already robust location-based data. So for us, it's kind of getting to those table stakes moments so that we can actually build a business within the confines of how everyone in this audience measures media, because it's really important for us to play in the space that you actually like want to like convince your boss or your boss's boss, or ultimately your CMO or your CFO, right? Like that's your end. You're probably your end person making decisions that this is working. So that in and of itself was like a huge focus for us. It's actually been exciting. Kantar is like our brand lift study, and we just did a meta-analysis, and it came back that our averages for brand favorability increases and purchase intent are 7x Kantar norms, which isn't surprising to me because we serve one ad for the entire ride. So you're in that ride, there's one ad, it renders different ways. We're starting to think about like, do we start to run multiple ads in different places, pre-request, post-request? But right now, it's one ad that's pretty like front and center when you're looking at your phone. So
I think this is really fascinating because we spend a lot of time thinking about how retail media networks, commerce media networks are brand building. They are through the funnel, mental and physical availability, buyer and sharp.
Yeah.
This is a full funnel opportunity. We got a few minutes left, so I want to ask for a quick client success story, and then we'll see if we have a few minutes to talk about the future. So can I come to you first?
Sure. So we work with a lot of brands, obviously, when they're launching new products or when they're running a national campaign and really making sure that they have that full funnel coverage. So for the Super Bowl, we worked with one of our personal care brands who had a celebrity of the same name in their ad this past Super Bowl. And they wanted to make sure that when we saw the ad, that consumers were able to quickly find that product. And so they partnered with us to make sure that they had a search campaign running both on-site and off-site, and that they were able to really carry that campaign through the entire funnel. And through CMX, we're able to actually deliver about 2/3 of the impressions that they saw with their Super Bowl ad, but in a much more efficient way. We were also able to reactivate and bring new brand buyers to their brand. And so we actually brought in about 60K new members to their brand through the Extra Care program. So then they're able to retarget those customers with offers at register and to make sure that there's real stickiness with their brand and with CVS even after the Super Bowl ad was complete.
That's cool. Yeah, we're doing a lot around events too, just because our rideshare holidays are like events, right? I'll say two. One is with this sponsored ride product that I won't go into too many details, other than we are in beta right now testing an ad, and it's pre-request. So it's before you actually request your ride. Eventually, we'll find people off network as well. But we drove 73% in incremental drop-offs to the retail and restaurant and groceries partners that we worked with who were exposed to those rides. So to me, it's like $4 off a ride or $5 off a ride. We were testing different prices. It was really interesting. Like that to me is like, it works. It's great. But on like the ideas side, we just did something around the U.S. Open a couple weeks ago. I don't know if anyone went down in New York, but Dove came to us. They had, I don't know if you guys saw this, they launched a limited edition body bar that looks like a tennis ball and actually comes in a can that looks like a can of tennis balls. And they wanted to do something big. Venus Williams is their partner. We even had ideas of like having Venus Williams in the back of a vehicle and like surprising and delighting. And you'd be like, oh my God, this is great. Venus Williams, I'm going to the U.S. Open. Do you want to come hang out with me? We didn't get past some of the legal hurdles, obviously. But what we did is they took over our map. So when you open up the app during the U.S. Open, it was Dove in these soap bars driving around instead of cars. We wrapped a bunch of cars. We put them out in Flushing around the U.S. Open. We gave out all of this product, and they ran a bunch of media as well. But the really cool thing, and I'm a girl dad, I also have 2 boys, but my 13-year-old daughter, the stat, it just like resonated with me. 45% of all girls stopped playing sports by the time they're 14 years old. That's wild, right? So the whole premise was like, how does Venus convince girls to continue to be confident in who they are and in their bodies at that stage of life to continue to play sports? So that was the message. That was the media that they ran, and that was like through, the through line for the sampling that they did, and it was just really fun. It was like a really fun thing, and we're gonna be talking about that at Adweek with them because they're stoked on it. So.
Who'd have thought we'd been talking experiential? Incredible, right? Like this is retail media. So you're kind of talking a little bit about the transformation, the future that's happening now. Kristen, if you can close for us, what does the future look like?
Yeah, I mean, it is moving so fast. I mean, Shane, you keep saying, you're jealous of how far along we are. We just celebrated our 4-year anniversary, so we're not that far ahead. But the industry is changing so fast, and really where we see the industry going is, again, transparency, measurement, standardization, making sure that we're all holding hands on this together for the betterment of the industry and our advertisers, and definitely experiential and in-store where you have those captive audiences, especially at shelf, to make decisions, is really where I think the next couple years will be focused.
No AI?
I was going to, no, do you want to?
Aren't we already using AI?
I don't know what's going on. I'll just second that. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of companies that start up out of this, right? If you look at like the businesses that started, when social media took off, and there's all these companies you were talking about, like standardizing measurement and ad creative and development of campaign and like global reach and frequency across those walled gardens or hedge gardens or whatever we're calling them. Like, I think that's going to be a proliferation that we see over the next like 5 to 10 years, that there's going to be a bunch of companies that we've never heard of that we're going to be, hearing about over the next several years that are going to help make everyone smarter in buying and finding success in this industry.
What a place to close. Hopefully we can come back next year and review. But a big round of applause, please, for our fantastic panel. Thank you.
Please welcome, from Later, Senior Director, Partnerships and Agency Alliances, Michaela Caprio. And please welcome Jean Wang, creator and founder of Extra Petite.
Hello. It's nice and toasty in here. Super excited. This is my first ad club. I have Jean Wang here with me. I'm so grateful for you to be here with us. Thank you guys for having us. I'm with Later. I head up partnerships for brands and agencies. We support end-to-end creator programs. I built up creator affiliate programs for brands like Zara, Shiseido. I really love the space. I love the creativity. I love being able to see relevant conversations happening and moderated by creators. And we have Jean here. We're going to have a fun conversation today. You may know her as Extra Petite online. She's also a mom. She's a founder of Edited Pieces. She's really about empowering women to find their own flavor in fashion. She's your go-to girl if you want any tips and tricks for fashion, for transitioning from summer to fall. She really has cultivated such an online presence, garnering millions of views, and so I'm super excited to have you here. So I think to kick off, just a little stat that I think we all are, there's no surprise here that the creator economy, there's no signs of slowing down. We're seeing expected to grow to a staggering $528 billion by 2030. And right now the influencer industry is at 128 billion. So brands are investing. There's a proven success happening. And so to kick us off, wanted to ask you the burning question. Can we wear white after Labor Day? Do I need to go change my pants?
I think you were the perfect example of how stunning it can look year-round.
Thank you. But seriously, let's start with your incredible journey. 10 years ago, you were working at Deloitte. Then you became a full-time creator and founder. Walk us through that journey.
Well, first, hello. I am so excited to be here. My husband worked in advertising for years. He was last a creative director. He was very envious that I get to be here with you guys. So I'm just really excited to be here. Thank you. So to answer your question, I'm going to date myself. I started so long ago before doing this as a career was a viable thing. I was at my first big girl job at Deloitte, being 4'11", baby face, having no idea how to style my body type. And it didn't help that I was in client service and clients would constantly make comments like, "Oh, honey, you can't be out of high school yet, could you?" So one day, after maybe one too many of those comments, I went home, sat at my desk, started a free blog. Who here remembers Blogspot? Anybody? And I just started treating it like a journal, sharing my journey to looking more polished and professional, feeling more confident, and also just being taken more seriously in the workplace. And I guess that resonated with a bunch of people. And what started out as a hobby with zero revenue eventually became a side hustle while I was working very long hours at Deloitte. Companies like to know it. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Really made it easier and kind of democratized earning affiliate revenue for small creators. So that made a big difference in starting to earn a little bit of revenue. And then eventually, it was kind of clear that it was overtaking my day job. I was a valuation manager back then, and it was pretty hard to throw that away and jump into the space full time, but I thought I would be an idiot not to take this opportunity and do something I always loved. Oh, I don't know if that answers your question. But going down memory lane, and since this is Ad Club, this brings back the memory of when I got started, and I turned to my then boyfriend, who was the copywriter at Connolly Partners, and I was like, please use your talent with words to help me come up with a blog name. And he goes, well, you're petite, you're Asian, I guess you're a girl, so just call it petiteasiangirl.com. And like the fool that I was, I went with it. And that was my persona for years. And people on the street would be like, "Oh my gosh, Pag, so nice to meet you." And boyfriend of Pag. And it definitely brought an unwanted audience, but it took me a while before I wisened up and rebranded. So, yeah.
I love it. So there's always a debate and always kind of a battle in my own mind sometimes too. Do you prefer creator or influencer?
Between those two options, creator 100%. But if you're talking about oneself, I think both are a little bit presumptuous, and you can't really delegate the title of influencer. It really has to be earned. But let's just use creator.
Got it. Love it. So there's so many amazing evolutions happening with creators and brands beyond the social feed, right? And so beyond just, posting a picture, calling it a day, we're seeing creators becoming producers at brands. We're seeing creators having C-suite titles at brands. We're seeing brands becoming content houses with creators. One of my favorite examples is Elf Cosmetics. They're absolutely crushing it right now. If you don't follow their CMO on LinkedIn, please do. It's just incredible to see. So one of my favorite things that they did with creators is that they partnered with creators to promote their true crime mockumentary, basically talking about the elf products that go missing when someone borrows your makeup. And this aired on Amazon Freevee during the premiere of Mean Girls. Absolutely genius. But it was really interesting to see how creators can go beyond the feed and promote that and have all of this content generating, and the conversation went absolutely viral, and it was amazing. do you have any examples of work that you've done or brands that you've seen do this really well, and maybe some of the brands that don't have the e.l.f. Advertising budget?
I love that elf example. That is so creative. But I also feel that, if you're a brand and you don't have agency, or if you don't have a very, robust in-house creative team to come up with ideas like that, I just love a good old-fashioned collaboration when influencer with a brand that really makes sense partner together and bring a tangible product to life or a service. I followed someone, they had a limited edition smoothie at a high-end grocery store. Never mind the fact it was an $18 smoothie, but I thought it was a very interesting concept and partnership, and I saw people were excited about it. I've also seen a lot of creators who I respect. I'm sure you guys have seen, they have podcasts of their own, and it's just a nice, tangential platform to talk more about an offshoot of what they do on another social platform. Also, the return of longer form media like Substack. I'm finding myself back to enjoying subscribing to someone, getting excited when I see their new Substack post pop up my inbox. And I do think there is a little bit of a return to longer form media in that way. And there's a chance to market in all those types of different platforms. For example, people who read my blog is a very different demographic than people who are following on Instagram. And there is opportunity to market to both of them.
Totally. And so as a creator, you've been on this journey since influencing became a verb, and now it's at a matured state. There's a lot of pressure to keep up with the trends and testing out, different elements of your content, different platforms. How do you maintain that level of staying true to your audience, or what do you see happening with creators partnering with brands when you think about strategies and platforms? We see a lot of always on partnerships and.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit to what I've seen. I've been very fortunate to be able to partner with a lot of brands that I respect. And over the years, I'm seeing a lot more of the always on. So the majority of our book of business now is quarterly or annual partnerships. So we sign on December of last year, and we already have our full year of posts scheduled out. We don't know the content, but we have that commitment scheduled out. And we really love that from the creator side, and I've also worked in brand marketing for a bit. I love it from the brand side because of that consistency. Because the audience needs several touch points before they buy something. So having that consistency, seeing that brand collaboration pop up on your feed every month, just has brought in a lot of success. So that being said, I think it's also nice to have a balance of one-off partnerships to kind of test the waters. So when I worked in brand marketing, it's nice to have that. And I worked at Gemmy, a Boston-based shoe company. Anyone heard of them? Yeah, we when we launched, I did their marketing and influencer relationships. So we're trying to get people to spread the word. So while the longer-term, always-on partnerships are nice, it's also nice to have some one-off partnerships to test the waters, because you never really know who's going to hit with their audience and your brand. And there are definitely some surprises. So it's nice to do the mix of the always on and one off. Another thing that we're seeing a lot in the past year or two is, if you're on Instagram speaking, so stories only partnerships. And that to me at first was surprising, because as a brand, why wouldn't you want something that lives on for a longer period? Like a blog post or an in-feed post. Stories are gone in 24 hours, but brands are definitely seeing the return on that. And I'm seeing it too from my side, because it just feels more natural. It's more relatable. You're talking to a friend, and it's easy to sell to a friend and be influenced by a friend. So I'm seeing a lot more brands want stories-only partnerships, or similar short form. It's gone in 24 hours, but it feels natural. Does that touch a little bit on the question?
Yeah. Gen AI has been more than a buzzword over the past year in the creator space. We saw a study go out by Digiday by Billion Dollar Boy that 81% of creators found that their followers preferred their Gen AI content and saw stronger performances. That definitely put a light bulb in my head. And so what are you seeing from the creator side? How perhaps are you using it? Is your network using it? What's your perspective on that? And for folks in the room too, to just give a little context of how that relates to creator content. So we think about coming up with creative concepts via Gen AI, scripts, but I would love for you to hear too how you've seen it in the space and any perspective on it.
I personally haven't used it yet, but I definitely have peers who have, not for the imagery aspect of Gen AI, but more in like helping write a quick blog post, helping write a quick caption. I have friends who use it for like their goals and strategies. So they will put in like, hey, at the end of the year, I'd like to increase my newsletter subscribers by this much. And I'd like to grow my following to this type of community, this type of audience. And give me some strategy examples, or like, what can I do? And they use like Gen AI that way. But maybe you can talk a little more about how brands might be using it.
Yeah. I think where we see it personally, I'm not working directly in providing that for my clients, but the value definitely is like generating at scale, right? So if you're retail, you have 40 products that you need to be posting about, creating, capturing content and pushing that out, whitelisting those ads, like that's definitely a time and place where I can see it. I think it's something that's coming up a bit more, but yeah, I wish we had it when we were in college. That would have been nice. Let's talk about creator pricing for a minute. Marketers in the room, how do you recommend them to approach creators? Are we looking at following count still?
Follower count?
Yeah.
I would say follower count is like a starting point, but it is absolutely not indicative of how a creator could perform for your brand. I was actually curious. I was asking Michaela, like, how many of you actually, or do you guys work with creators, or do you have a division under you that works with creators? Or is this just not really a topic that you guys encounter at work? Okay. So I didn't want to get too into the nitty gritty and share information that no one really is concerned with. But like a benchmark that I had always heard in recent years, like when we were reaching out as a brand asking creators, is they would say like 1% of their following. So just like that's where a lot of people were charging for an in-feed post. So this is a post that lives on forever. This is Instagram as an example. TikTok is obviously very different. Other media is different, like a blog post is different. But generally, I was hearing from smaller, mid-sized creators, they were saying 1%, so that's the 1% guideline. And obviously people stray from that. But what we've learned is that is just, that can be what people charge, but that value to you will vary quite a bit depending on how good of a fit they are for your brand. And also it matters in what kind of guidelines you give them. So I love working with brands that give very clear guidelines on what they want to see, what they want you to promote, and that's helpful both ways. So with that being said, we have seen creators way outperform that 1% fee in their return on investment. And like now I'm seeing brands when they're reaching out to me, they very transparently share what their expected ROI is. And that's kind of helpful when I take on a project, I see what they're paying me, and it kind of has me keep that in mind. Like if I don't get re-engaged for this project, I'll know why, because I didn't hit those metrics. So brands, like major brands are reaching out. There's a popular activewear like brand that has a $9 ROI for what they're paying you, and the other ones are a little bit less. I'm just giving you an example. But this is like, I love that they're sharing it now because it's helpful both ways. So it makes me, like if I know I'm not gonna be able to sell that much leggings, I probably wouldn't even take it on to like not disappoint the brand. I know that went off a little bit of a tangent, but
we're here to listen to you. Not
yeah,
me,
so I guess, yeah, to turn it back to Michaela, I guess my point being, you never really know what return you're going to get with someone unless you have some data. So you get that data on their conversions either from trying to work with them, which will cost money, or you use an agency or a service that already has that data and that knowledge of how certain creators perform.
Quick later plug. But that, exactly to your point, something that later does provide our clients, and it's the ability to recommend creators based not just on CPM, but also CPE. We can set up programs so that you guys are setting benchmarks before you're even committing to a creator, which is really nice. I think having that level of transparency. Following count is definitely a great starting point, but when you think about the variations between Instagram, TikTok, the pricing on YouTube Shorts, they all vary. Start there and then look at their engagements. The other really cool thing too about Later, and I'll stop talking about Later, but real quick, we just acquired Link in Bio, which I'm sure you guys have heard the term of Link in Bio, second to Linktree. Something that we can do too is go beyond just the following count, look beyond the CPMs of the creators. We can actually see who drives traffic via their link in bio. We can see at the other end of it. So when you think about extending content shelf life beyond the feed, that's another really interesting way to think about partnering with creators as well. Last question. We have a room full of marketers here. What advice would you give them when it comes to really, making sure that they're working with creators to get as much value for their investment? When you think about creator content, repurposing it on beyond just the feed.
So not plugging Later or agencies like Later, but from the brand side and from the creator side, I think using an agency, or whether it's in-house or outside, that is an expert in the space will make your life so much easier and will make the project return so much better. Because when we were doing it in-house at MGME, like cherry picking who we thought might be a good fit was extremely tedious and time consuming, and oftentimes we were wrong. And on the creator side, many of us don't want to be working with 10 individual contacts on and doing, like, some of them may not be experienced enough to have good briefs and have like clear project direction. So I think using an agency is extremely helpful in this space to really maximize your investment. And then something that I've been seeing a lot to extend and really maximize that investment is whitelisting. This is not revolutionary. I know you guys are all familiar with it, but it's working so well in platforms like Instagram. Because first of all, you can't turn it off. So I have every ad blocker out there. I have subscriptions, so I get no ads, but you can't do that for platforms like Instagram, so you just get served those ads. And I'm loving whitelisting because a lot of times you don't even realize you're watching an ad. So if you're watching stories, you're like, I'm doing my makeup, I'm watching the stories for today. It sounds like, it's creators I love to follow, and then up pops a face I'm not totally familiar with, but I'm not exactly sure, and they're selling me a product I didn't know I needed, and then a week later, that person pops up again, and the next thing I know, my husband has already ordered a gigantic kids cushion set to arrive at our tiny condo because he was also served these ads, and it's just so smart, and it's a way to extend that 24-hour investment on, say you can collaborate with someone to do stories, and it's only 24 hours, but then they run that for a whole month. I recently worked with Cezanne. I don't know if you guys heard of them. They're a French apparel company that's really trying to make a splash in the United States, and they're doing amazing. And they reached out to creators in the different cities that they were opening. They did creator guides, city guides, and then they ran that whitelisting for a month. And they said that it did phenomenal for them. So it's just a wonderful way to extend the investment that you made already and just let it live on. And it feels very organic. And from what I've seen from both sides, it's very successful.
Yeah, some other ones I would add to that too is I work very closely with our partners at TikTok. They have this concept of out of phone, so out of home, but out of phone. And so taking creator content to billboards, taking it to the gas station screens, which is really interesting to think about too. Some other ways to really maximize creator content is creator storefronts. So I'm sure you guys have heard of Amazon storefronts, having that more personalized creator experience, shopping journey with the creators that you follow, driving to the brand sites. Another thing that we do for clients too is syndicating creator content for ratings and reviews on owned sites, which is really interesting to think about how to maximize that content. And then also, of course, paid assets, right? Creators are a win-win. You get content, you get reach. I think that's just one of the ways to always think about a full circle when you work with creators is how can we take this across the board? So always think about that. But this is the first panel. I've never ran out of time or I've had extra time. Do we do questions? Do we network early? Because we're good with our questions. Does anyone want to ask? Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Well, that was it.
Oh, actually, Michaela, you reminded me. I was
Yeah.
in the middle of recording a day in the life of real riveting content, like making my kids' lunches, whatnot. This is definitely the most exciting thing I'm doing today. So would you guys mind being in a 2-second clip of this snippet of my day in the life?
We'll tag every single one of you.
Oh, look, typical me. I have the camera facing the wrong direction. I've missed so many of my kids' milestones when it's just like my chin, and I thought that I was like recording them.
Do you want me to take it?
It's all right. All right, hello, everybody. Thank you so much.
She'll tag every single one of you guys. Thank you, guys.
Now it's time for a brief break. We'll begin again at 3:50. Please welcome Head of Brand Marketing for Wayfair, Cara O'Brien, and SVP, Creative Partnerships, NBC Universal, Dana Pasciuto.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you all. To stand or to sit? That was our question. We chose chairs. So. I am Dana Pasciuto, and I lead Creative Partnerships Marketing at NBC Universal.
And I'm Cara O'Brien. I lead brand marketing for Wayfair.
And we're really going to be talking about innovation and partnership today. So generally just trying to think about partnership together, really believe that that's when two brands ultimately come together and have an opportunity to create a unique experience or a unique story for consumers that they wouldn't have otherwise experienced. And so I've had the pleasure of working with Cara and her team at Wayfair over the past few years and really watching the brand evolve and thrive and finding ultimately ways that we can sort of plug in our shows and our talent to sort of help them in their mission to tell stories to new audiences. So let's start by talking about Bravo, because we're really going to dig into the equity that Wayfair and NBCU have built in the Bravo space. So who are my Bravo fans? Where are my people? Oh my God, I love
that.
it. You're my
There's
people.
the proof
I am
right
you.
there.
I am you. You are me. So for those of you who don't know Bravo quite as well, or Bravo's fandom, the way that I really like to sort of talk about the sort of rabid fandom of Bravo is kind of like sports fandom. It really is that passionate. And when you are a fan of Bravo, you're incredibly social. We like to talk to each other about the tea, about the drama that's going on with our shows. We're very loyal, so Bravo fans like multiple franchises on the network. They're going to keep coming back time and time again for more. And we're big spenders. So $1.8 trillion spent annually across Bravo audiences. And I think there was sort of no better example of this than seeing the sort of 10,000 fans a day that showed up to our little event in Las Vegas in the fall called BravoCon at Caesars Forum. And that was sort of our big experiential event that gave fans the opportunity to sort of fully immerse themselves in the Bravo universe. Cara and I were there.
It was something.
We survived. It was actually very, very fun, and the intensity of the Bravo fandom was wild. So we're going to give you a little bit of that Bravo energy and show you what BravoCon was all about, and then we'll talk about how Wayfair kind of came to play a role in it. I hope. Do I press this again?
This is like our Super Bowl. Yeah.
This has become our life. We say bravo. Take it away. BravoCon, the ultimate fan experience, up the ante with its biggest and best weekend yet.
This is amazing.
It's BravoCon. I'm so excited to be here.
Fans came for the Bravo legs, the T, and the A&D. The buzz was as good as gold and proved that what happens in Vegas doesn't always stay in Vegas.
You know we're talking about BravoCon.
Fans are eating it up and sharing the deliciousness.
Let me tell you.
It is a party. The energy is unrivaled.
For our partners, we made it nice. Harnessing the power of NBC Universal platforms. Ensuring brands could reach Bravoholics worldwide.
It feels phenomenal.
Fans went all in on BravoCon.
This is a dream come true for me.
Cheers. Making it the best place to hedge your bets and align your brand with Bravo.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
Brings me right back.
Oh my God, I'm tired just looking at it. Oh, we need to click again.
So with that, before we dive into the partnership, I wanted to lay some groundwork for where Wayfair has been in our thought process, and especially as it pertains to thinking about such an experiential activation as BravoCon was. So how many folks are familiar with Wayfair as a brand? Cool. Most of you are from the area. I would hope so. So Wayfair is a 22-ish-year-old brand that has been an e-commerce first retailer for home furnishings. And emphasis on the commerce first. We've really only existed in the digital sphere for a very long time. And as you think about how most people think about buying furniture, a lot of that is actually and historically has been done in person. There's something very tactile about it. There's something about understanding the dimensions of something in your space. But Wayfair was really the pioneer in bringing that experience online, which really promoted the accessibility, access to all styles in one location without having to drive to a showroom and then wait something like 8 weeks for it to be delivered to your home. As we sort of have progressed in our journey, though, there is still something that is so deeply emotive about how you purchase for your home that we've been thinking for some time about how do we bring our experience and what we uniquely bring to home furnishing shopping to real life, to a physical space. And so some of you may have heard we opened our first large format retail store earlier this year. That had obviously been in the works for some time, but really to extend our brand beyond this moment when you have to buy something for your home and tap into what is it that home really means to people? What is the essence of setting up your home to be the true reflection of who you are? It's sort of an ultimate form of self-expression. Similar to that, fandom can be another form of self-expression. And so as we thought about ways to engage customers much more uniquely, we wanted to tap into other ways that they are expressing themselves. And so if you want to go to the next slide, we actually brought that challenge to our friends at NBC Universal to say, what are some of the ways that we could leverage our partnership and tap into something that people are bringing their full selves to in order to then help show them that, they can do that in their own homes. They can do that by selecting the perfect products for them and create spaces that they love.
Yep. And personalized spaces and the notion of personalization, I think, is really important here. And as we think about personalization, some of the things that Kara's saying, I think it's also about sort of showing up and meeting consumers where they are around the things that they love and love very deeply in this case, and really sort of giving them, as I had mentioned before, a different type of experience around that. So as we tried to think about how to bring this to life for Wayfair at BravoCon, we really first leaned into one of our most, if not most, iconic franchises, which is The Real Housewives, and then ultimately sort of created a home for housewives. And what that ultimately looked like on the sort of footprint of BravoCon were 4 very uniquely and sort of beautifully Wayfair designed spaces inspired by 4 different franchises of the housewives in those locations. So think Real Housewives of Miami, of New York, Beverly Hills, and Salt Lake City. So that's sort of tactically what it was. What that actually became was an opportunity for fans to feel like they were immersing themselves in the shows that they really, really loved, to get a talent experience out of that, but ultimately tie that directly to a design inspiration moment, and shop that moment. And I think that's where the big opportunity came in.
So as we attempted to design this experience and design this opportunity together, I think for Wayfair, there were a few key principles that we wanted to think about. So one was really tapping into that fan experience. What do people want to see and feel when they are at BravoCon? I think the video showed quite nicely that they're feeling all the feels and there's a lot going on. And so what we wanted to create was something immersive, and working with NBC to create a large footprint where you step in and you feel like you're part of these individual shows. Do we have Housewives fans in here as well?
Oh, yes.
Embarrassed to admit it a little bit, maybe. Never. And so we really wanted to make sure that we created things that were tied to the geography of each of the franchises. And by doing so, that was actually going to show one of our key brand promises, which is that we have the selection for any style in any home. And so the juxtaposition of the different styles, the different talent pieces, the Easter eggs that we were able to put throughout the space, I think really brought that to life. And to me, the success, and we can talk about measurement in a little bit, but one of the biggest successes was people walked through the space and were like, wow, Wayfair sells all of this? this look. And to me, that was just such a good feedback loop for us to say, yes, of course we do. And, we can help you express whatever this means to your identity through the things that we sell.
There was really beautiful stuff in there, and I wanted all of it. So obviously it was very critical for us to make sure that this story was not just existing within the walls of Caesars Forum and at Vegas, right? We really needed to expand to reach fans wherever they are. And, coming back to personalization, we need to reach Bravo fans wherever they're consuming media. And I'd mentioned we're very, very social. So of course we were going to extend this into the social space with a lot of conversation there with our talent relationships on their channels, as well as Bravo and Wayfair's O&Os. We were doing live look-in content that allowed fans that could not be in Vegas to see what was actually happening at BravoCon, which was a huge value add to them, and see what Wayfair was doing there. And then, of course, sort of surrounding BravoCon and Bravo content across Peacock and Bravo itself, just to make sure we were really flooding the airwaves in this big sort of tentpole moment for Bravo fans to understand the story we were building with Wayfair.
And I'll just build on that by saying to know Bravo is to know the Bravo celebrities. And so our focus on using talent to also tell the story, just to tie this back even to the creator conversation that we were just having, there's so much about having someone else's voice tell the story like through their own voice that helped us sort of reinforce again that Wayfair can show every style. And I think any Bravo celebrity is really known for their personal style and the way that they express themselves. And so that was a really awesome tie-in that we were excited about too. You'll notice Dr. Nicole Martin actually.
Presented by Wayfair. Every style, every space, every home.
Dr. Nicole Martin actually planned her outfit to coordinate with the set while she was there, and I thought that was a creator going above and beyond.
Oh my God, it was incredible. So yeah, I think as you think about the core components of the partnership, and as Kara's mentioning talent now, the biggest sort of opportunity we saw was to really collapse those moments of influence and inspiration with actual shopping, right? And so the talent is such a linchpin to that, both in just kind of really authenticating that connection of the franchise to the designs that you were seeing. Nicole actually, dressed coordinated to the designs, which was amazing. But also giving fans this kind of once in a lifetime moment where they're sort of in a space, that's like a Real Housewives of New York living room, and they're with Sonia Morgan. She's dancing on the couch, which was amazing. And, so I think moving that really into the social sort of conversation of it all, we're really able to insert Wayfair into the cultural conversation in a different kind of way, and in a way that made a lot of sense to our Bravo fans. But I think ultimately that all kind of culminates in being able to sit in this sort of like beautifully curated space that sort of feels like you're kind of on maybe even the set of one of your favorite shows, and then seeing these items that actually drive your own sort of design inspiration and being able to sort of seamlessly shop with a QR code right there. So that sort of like influence to shopping moment was just kind of all happening at once, and ultimately was giving fans I think what the Wayfair proposition is, which is a very seamless and inspirational shopping experience.
So I think to know Wayfair and Wayfair's marketing mentality at all is to know that we put a big emphasis on measuring everything that we do. And I would say experiential marketing maybe bucks that trend a little bit, in that the KPIs can really vary depending on your objective and can be a little bit harder to put our arms around. And so we actually worked very closely with the NBC team to make sure that we were thoughtful about what we were intending to achieve and how we would gauge whether or not we achieved it. And so when I think about experiential activations such as this one, I think about a couple of things. One is, did we have a reason for being there? Was it very clear? You can shortcut that by saying brand fit, but really, is that reason going to be so clear to anybody who's interacting with us that they are going to remember who we are? The second is, what kind of impression did we leave? And did we actually land that message crisply enough? Everything we built around the experience is focused on landing that message. And then the third, which is what Dana talked about a little bit already, is, did it reach well beyond the walls of what we put together? And so we were thrilled to be able to partner to create the measurement tools to actually figure out whether we did the job that we intended to do. And we ended up seeing fantastic results, which was so great because this was a very new type of initiative for Wayfair. Wayfair. And so we saw that, over 80% of attendees recalled that we were there. Seems like a very basic metric, but I think, if we all reflect on the things we do every day, not everything maybe is having real impact. And so to make sure that, if we're showing up in real life in front of a potential customer and they remembered that, we cleared the first hurdle. And then we saw that over 50% would recommend Wayfair after seeing the brand at BravoCon. This was really exciting, and there are sort of some sub-metrics under this that we look at, but really that we left an impression that was positive. We tapped into the equity of Bravo. We brought what we could uniquely bring to the experience, and we saw that attendees really responded to it. And then to Dana's point earlier, we saw over 40 million impressions across all of the different sort of social and digital activations that we did to support the weekend and to really give the folks who couldn't be there physically insight into what it was we were trying to create. And then with some icing on the cake, we won a couple of awards too.
We like to do that. And yeah, so we are sort of actively continuing to figure out how we build on this equity. It was seeing the success and just sort of that kind of intrinsic link between the brands making a ton of sense has really led us into deeper talent relationships and conversations. So we actually had talent from our activation sort of move on to have a baby and actually love the brand so much that we spun that into an opportunity and were able to kind of build out her dream nursery with Wayfair furniture. So just showing you the power of actually like making a great talent and brand connection and how that sort of spins off into things that are really, really powerful. Bravo Fan Fest coming to Miami. It's sort of like our mini BravoCon as we lead up into the big show in 2025. So Fan Fest is going to be another opportunity to kind of reinstate Wayfair as that sort of Bravo kind of design destination. And yeah, the sky is the limit. So we're just continuing to talk about how we build on this and kind of draft off of what we've done.
Yeah, and I would say as a marketer, even to connect this to the measurement notes that we were making before, I would say that this particular activation gave me a lot of good filters and criteria for what types of activations actually make sense for us in the future, and really to be able to bring the brand through authentically and be additive to the attendee experience. I think that was something, we had a lot of hypotheses about how we were going to execute it, and then seeing it in person, making sure we were designing something to the fan, not just to the talent, not just to the brand's desire, making sure that it was enhancing the overall experience, making it better, and feeling like something that was driving the excitement of the day. Pushing ourselves to be able to deliver upon that was definitely a big way that we grew through this partnership and are grateful for.
Even something as simple as giving fans comfortable spaces to sit and watch the panels, which is essentially where these design spaces were, was just like such a value add to them. That they got cozy and they're sitting there looking at all this beautiful stuff and deciding, what they want as this kind of incredible memento of their experience. So it fired on all cylinders. And a couple of people have plugged things up here, and that's not what I'm going to do, I promise.
Go for it.
But I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Bravo is not the only brand within the walls of NBCU. We have so many different tentpoles, cultural moments, and platforms, IP, talent. We like to say it's an embarrassment of riches, but I think it really does come back to the audience. The consumer that you're really trying to engage and reach, the story that you're trying to tell them and how you're trying to get them to take action, because ultimately, that's going to inform the right space, the right place, and the right way for us to connect, as we've been saying over and over again. Like, what is that value add to the consumer, and how are we doing something really special for them that's going to get them to lean in, and that can take any sort of shape or form depending on sort of the platform that we're connecting to. And I think that's all we got. We also have time left over.
Amazing.
Please welcome our moderator, Group Account Director for Gupta Media, Sarah Noel.
Good afternoon. Would it be easier to not get us confused if we go under our pictures? Let's do that. All right. I am Sarah. I'm a group account director at Gupta Media. I am one of those very tenured media leadership team members Gogi was mentioning earlier during his keynote. And I'm very excited to be here with this panel of experts today to talk data and ways that data is used today to optimize media plans, maximize audience engagement, and ultimately deliver better business results. So we're going to quickly introduce everyone we have here today. We have Michelle Capasso, who's a partner and chief media officer at Connolly Partners. She is bringing her wealth of agency knowledge and experience working with brands to really find innovative and new ways to connect with target audiences. We also have Caitlin Carroll, who's a media director too at Liberty Mutual Insurance. She leads the cross media planning and measurement team at their internal media agency, Bedlow. And we have, last but not least, Marissa Price from Sitely down at the end. She is the chief client officer. She leads Sitely's client services and analytics teams, working with brands on Sitely's brand mentality tech platform. So she's coming from the data provider perspective today. We've heard people mention data in some of the earlier sessions, so wanted to just start things off talking a bit about how each of you integrate data, whether that's first party, second party, third party data in your media planning and jobs.
I can start from the agency perspective. So look, we're really hungry and we want it all, right? We want every kind of new way to try to somehow get to our audiences. So we're using a lot across all plans, but it's really important to think about, when you're using third party versus first party. I feel like during this phase we just went through of people prepping for a cookie demise, a lot of our clients got better at their first party data. And so now we have so much more of it. And we're seeing some really tremendous outcomes with bringing in the first party data, particularly for some of our nonprofits and our donation driven clients. So it's been really successful so far.
Awesome. Caitlin?
So for some context, at Liberty Mutual, we are looking to drive that awareness so that when someone is at their next insurance shopping journey, we are top of mind. But it is a much longer-tailed funnel because ultimately we're trying to drive a consumer who might buy multiple policies with us, that home and that auto policy, and stick with us for a long time. But if you think about your insurance shopping journeys, if you've had any recently, we collect a lot of information throughout that process. So we are lucky to have really rich and robust first-party data where we know your name, your address, your date of birth, your education level. So we have a lot of that data at our fingertips and are able to run a lot of analyses and modeling to understand and identify what that ideal consumer we want to go after is. So a lot of work in our first-party data, but of course that's limited to who we are already touching. So have worked on some integrations with external third-party vendors to cast that wider net, join the insights that we have from a first-party data perspective and those ideal value consumers to then harness and cast that wider net and target or suppress using those third-party data strategies.
Marissa?
Yeah, for us, totally agree. There's a ton of value in that first-party data, especially when clients have it to activate. But we also find that brands are really coming to us to find new audience opportunities and to connect with them in a deeper way. And that's where our data integrations really come into play. I'd say there's three main areas for us where those integrations are really key. The first is our brand mentality platform, or the profile that goes along with that platform, which is essentially meant to capture everything you'd want to know about a brand, right? Missions, values, how they think about competitors, events they like to align with, and a really nuanced view of how they think about culture and content alignment. The second is the thousands of third-party sources that we have across news and social. And then the third are the contextual signals that we're taking from direct preferred partnerships with channels and inventory sources like YouTube, TikTok, CTV to get really granular insight into things like video level content, trending hashtags. And from there, we have these data sets. We can essentially triangulate them to create a really curated view of trending moments related content for those moments, as well as recommended media actions that brands can take directly through the platform so that they can drive that really cohesive media strategy that they can take with them wherever they want to activate. We find that that's really key over time for making consistent, authentic marketing decisions, and that holds true for new audiences as well as first-party customer data as well.
Awesome. So Caitlin and Michelle, when you're thinking about data testing and maybe using a partner like Sightly, what are the success metrics you're deciding will determine the winner of those tests? How are you deciding what is worth the lift? What are the priority KPIs you're really focused on?
Well, I think it's a really well built out testing strategy, right? Because ultimately, one of the things I think that ends up, the more data that we're ingesting, the more signals we're getting, the more readouts we're getting, and the more you start to paralyze a little bit. So I feel like the more data that we're using, we have to be far more intentional in not just really the media outcome, it's really like how do we get closer to the business outcome and what are the appropriate KPIs for that. So it's almost we have to work harder at defining KPIs and testing strategy because there's just a wealth of data coming in at us and then you get paralyzed and really can't make that decision. So it's prioritization really.
Yeah, great call. No shortage of data. We love our data. We do have a robust in-market testing program. So at the beginning or onset of any test, we're really working to align on like, what's the key question we're really trying to answer? What's our hypothesis? And then we can align on what that target metric is. Oftentimes, it's some blend of either an efficiency-based metric, so how many people are we actually getting into certain points or to the end of our funnel, but also a value component. We might be driving a lot more people into our funnel, but they may not be converting or they may be a less desirable consumer cohort than others. So how do we look at that trade-off there? One thing I just love about the testing environment at Liberty Mutual is we come together as a team at regular cadence just to share out what tests are out there. It's a great way to brainstorm and see the exciting concepts in play across the team. The team is around 40 people, so it's fun to learn from what one tactic is doing. Can we lift and load or try that similar concept in another space, which is a lot of fun.
So I'm hearing information overload. Is this a good time or a bad time to mention that for Sightly, we're starting to play with new metrics? I'm gonna put that there. We can come back to it at a future day, maybe another innovation day. But we hear that a lot too, and especially as how you think about new media approaches are coming up and evolving, there's things that we're thinking about like brand relevance and resonance and velocity scores, right? Did you jump into the moment in culture that was right? Did you miss your opportunity? Are you early and going to be able to ride that whole momentum? But it is also really nice to hear brand agency perspectives as we continue to solve for those new types of thinking with metrics. I think it was Shane who called it the listening tour, maybe. So this is very helpful for partners like us to always hear and be experimenting with too.
Yeah. And I would say, look, we're always looking for what is the newer measurement, right? But then you get the more partners that you have in, because you're trying to, again, first party can only take you so far. So you're trying to find, like, how do you grow? You have to find new people. The more partners that we bring in, the more each individual partner will have some things that are a really great KPI for them. So how do we tie it all together for that bigger story? And how do we hold all the activations that we're doing to really the same accountability to that business outcome. So, but the more the better. It's prioritization, really. It's what's really important for us to be measuring right now.
Makes sense.
We've heard AI mentioned quite a few times already today, and it seems like AI and machine learning are the words in every headline of every webinar I see these days. Is AI something that's helping in navigating this overload of information? How is AI and machine learning coming into play in how you're integrating data and thinking about analyzing it?
Yeah, I can kick this one off. This is like a put me in coach question for Sightly. There's two big challenges that AI helps us solve. The first goes back to that brand mentality profile that I mentioned. There's a ton of data in there. It's really robust, which is amazing, but it also takes a lot of time to fill out. So how do we help our brands, our partners in those situations? We've actually been able to use Gen AI to populate the profile. It's using a mix of information available about a brand online. Of course, an advertiser can go in, edit it as they see fit, but it gets them maybe 80% of the way there, which is a huge time savings. The other piece, the more general challenge that it solves, going back to information overload, is this idea of how do you make sense of so much data? And for us, without AI, we would be sitting on billions of data points, but we wouldn't really have the so what behind it, right? So for us, we can use AI to create almost that connective tissue between the brand profile and all of these real-time data signals that we have to do everything from processing the raw data to find patterns in trending moments, to identify the related content for those moments, and then we take that all the way through to actually generate tailored media recommendations and actions that a brand can take, super specific to the brand mentality profile. So we know that everything is through their brand voice, through the lens and the thinking of that brand's perspective. So with AI, we're really able to drive that deep customization, maximize the value of the data that we have, and to do it at scale across many advertisers.
And I think that's part of it too. It's like, it's using it to process that data, but there's a human intuition and reading of some of that I think, there's so many AI tools and platform that can increase performance, and then you end up in this slippery slope of not being able to see what actually worked. And the last place you want to be as a media buyer is to turn around to a client and say, well, the machine said. We need to have hands in that, and that's where kind of that human touch comes at the end in terms of what is a legitimate, but it's really powerful to be able to make the machine work better, but then we need humans to be able to kind of read that outcome and understand that nuance. So.
Yeah, I know we've talked a bit about Meta's Advantage Plus or things like Google Performance Max, where you're just asked to trust the algorithm.
No, it's amazing. And again, it's, you can test it and it works really well, but then you lose that little bit. I'm like, as a buyer, you used to being able to say, well, I've got all these audiences and I can tell you, client, which audience is resonating more and how it's working. And sometimes you lose that visibility for the sake of the performance, and you have to make that decision of what's worth it.
For sure.
What's more important to that client.
I think it's definitely been a tough choice to make, and also raise the importance of some of the other elements of a strategy, like how much the creative matters in a world where the targeting has become so automated. So we touched on some of the challenges of AI and its influence, but what other challenges have you guys faced in integrating data in your strategies?
I can jump in as we think about integrating our first and third party data. There's going to become a lot of complexity just in, I think the couple things that come to mind are match rates and then scale and cost and just balancing all those things. But if you think about a real world example right now, as we're working to deploy some third party targeting across our streaming portfolio. So if you think about your TV at home, I know I have 5, 6, 7 different apps that I'm using across that space. And as we go to deploy those audiences across each of these different platforms, the match rate of that audience can vary widely. So we might have a 50% match rate here, but a 90% match rate here. And then as we go to then ingest and test and learn from that, how does that variation of who you're even starting out with impact the analysis or the takeaways that you're generating there? So I think it's a challenge we're navigating right now, but just really important for us to stay mindful of when we get those results back, like who actually are we now looking at? What audience is this? And who are those untargetable people or unmatched people? And how should we handle them? So a lot of complexities there, but really interesting as we're starting to learn more into that space.
Michelle, anything to add on that?
No, I would say it's the same thing. I mean, you guys obviously have spent a lot of time building it up, and I think with some of our clients, it's more how do we make it richer? How do we append it? How do we improve the match rates? How do we make it more almost like more nuanced? Because a lapsed donor is not the same person. There's a reason why somebody, and that's kind of where data and personalization starts to come in. It's like how much closer can we get to segmenting the data that we have and supplementing it so it's more meaningful and that we're coming in a much more authentic way, creatively, targeting-wise, platform-wise. So.
For sure. We definitely have some multi-million-dollar customer lists that have come our way that without segmentation, we can't do very much interesting things with. Yeah. Go ahead, Marissa.
Yeah, I was just going to say, as an ad tech platform, we certainly have our own challenges, but first and foremost, the challenges we need to solve are the ones that our clients have, and the points that you brought up about limitations with first-party data and scale, it can only get you so far. We hear that one a lot. We know that that's a challenge. We know there's also concerns about accuracy when it comes to third-party, maybe cookie-based audience solutions. So I think it's important that advertisers are pushing their partners to come up with new ways to not only scale desired audiences, but to also make it as easy as possible to reach them. I think every partner will have a different way of doing that. For us, again, it really goes back to understanding the brand. We use that profile data, almost like a seed data too, to an extent, to really understand how the brand is viewing their ideal consumer. And then again, AI comes back to play, right? We're looking for patterns about the audiences, what they're most interested in, what they're shopping for, searching for, where they're consuming media. And all of that information gets processed through this persona builder tool. And we are able to really come back to brands that need that manual that say, okay, here's the exact audience and content selections that you would want to make in each of the platforms where you're buying media to be able to reach this desired audience. I think when you can create that throughput from media strategy, audience planning, all the way through activation, there's a bit more accuracy there. And then there's, of course, room to test and learn, but you have a great starting point. And then Michelle, your point about the AI and the human element, I do think that's a real challenge right now with AI too. The reality is it's not perfect. It's doing a lot for partners like us, but it's not perfect. And it's really important to us to build in room for those human feedback mechanisms to say, hey, the platform got it right over here. It didn't get it right over here. How do we get it right next time? How do we continue to make our models smarter?
If a brand is coming to you and doesn't have much as far as a first-party data approach, they don't have much as far as users collected, they don't have a good segmentation strategy, and they're sort of starting from scratch, can Sightly help them? Like, are they in a good position coming to you?
Yes. Of course, I'm going to say yes, but truly, I believe that because we can look at the audience from a lot of different angles. Of course, we have our brand profile, that's amazing. We also get traditional RFPs with, here's what we know about our audience as the starting point, and using audience signals, other data sources that we have, our own historical information that we have, you can start to build that profile and then connect that with contextual signals to say, hey, this audience is really likely to be interested in these trending moments. This is an opportunity for your brand. This is maybe a risk for your brand. Maybe you want to stay away from that, but you can start to design that audience and build it together and again, optimize, learn from there.
Got it. Michelle started to touch on personalization. That is one of the things proponents of data usage and tracking really cite is using data can help make ads more interesting and relevant to people. You can really help customize each person's experience to what matters to them most. So could you guys talk about some of the ways you build more personalized media experiences for consumers?
I would say it's grounded in how many nuances can we discover with that data, because the gold standard is really we're using the data to target and segment, and then we're using it to refine messaging, and then we're using it for their full experience, like once they hit our site, once they start engaging. But it's really trying to kind of take a step back and look at where somebody is in their journey with your brand. And what we know about those steps to really personalize that messaging. And it does feel like we've made a lot of inroads in there, but there's so many more places that we could go in moving forward. I think those are just advances that are coming. I think that we were talking about it outside, that consumers think that we see a lot more than what we actually do, right? And so that's why I think there's a little bit of that pushback in terms of privacy, but then you don't realize that sometimes that the ads you're seeing are very relevant to you because we've been leaning into that data. So it's really kind of trying to isolate the journey, the platform, the messaging, and to be able to kind of tie that all together.
Got it. Marissa, anything to add there?
Yeah, I totally agree. Your point about aligning the targeting with the messaging, I think I would totally agree. I think we're all in lockstep on a lot of things, including maybe that's why we're wearing the
You're wearing
exact
the same
same outfit
outfit?
today.
Yeah.
I think it's important this wasn't planned. It's just part of the natural process, I guess. But I totally agree. The messaging coming together with the audience is really huge. I think the concept of the right audience, the right message at the right time is not a new one for our industry. I do think it's still something that we're working to solve. So for us, we try to create personalized media experiences. Again, it really comes back to making it easy for brands to identify the moments their consumers care about, that are trending, that are really popular, what are the narratives. And when you can align your brand message, even if it's your preset, standard creative that you have in market, there's still a lot of value in driving alignment with those brands. But then there's also those moments that I've sort of gotten in the habit of calling home run moments in our internal meetings, where it's just the moment the trend is just so spot on for a brand and the opportunity is just too good to pass up if you have a chance. And that's where if a brand can get really scrappy and turn around an asset quickly that's tailored to that moment, which it can be UGC feeling, right? It doesn't have to be studio quality. That works well in these social channels around trending moments. But when you can do that quickly, it's amazing to see what can happen and the types of the wins that you could have. And it's fun to watch it come to life. I mean, we've had a lot of success with brands in the CPG, beauty, entertainment space are great verticals for this, where it's to the point we've seen comments on ads when an advertiser has done this effectively that say things like, oh, this is A+ marketing, your marketing team deserves a raise. That's obviously lovely to hear on those ads. So that's been really cool to watch happen. But then there's also this idea that it doesn't have to start and stop with paid media. It affects the whole customer journey like you guys shared. I think it's also important to think about it through organic communications too. Some of our clients are actually using the platform more as an intelligence style in order to really understand these cultural signals and use it to inform how they think about timely messaging on their owned and operated channels as well.
Yeah, I think consumers they're just smarter, right? Like we find, I know we were talking earlier about influencers. We have an in-house influencer team, and the second that we move that content into social, it blows doors every single time. And I think it's exactly that. I feel like we've never had as many conversations about how we're showing up and what the messaging is there as we've had in the past couple of years, or the past year or so, of really like realizing it's not just the targeting and the landing pages and things, it's really like how we're showing up. So being authentic it's a huge part of it. And it's got to tie to everything organically as well, or else it's just so disconnected. So
Definitely, yeah. I think that's a really good point, that it's not just a paid media problem. It is interesting how data can be used for exclusion purposes to not waste paid media on people that are going to be covered through other marketing levers. You started to touch on it a little bit, Michelle, but how do you strike the right balance between consumer privacy and these personalized experiences?
It's a tough one. I think it depends on the type of first-party data that you have. And I mean, first and foremost, we're obviously relying on the fact that this is all collected appropriately. That's the first step, is working with trusted partners that we know are observing it. I know you guys collect a ton of it in ways that are appropriate and following all regulation. I don't think we're there yet. I don't think I do think there are probably some brands that have crossed a line where it's just you're just beating someone over the head over and over again with the same pair of shoes that is not going away. And I'm a sucker for that every single time. But I think that we try to just work with as much scale as we can in the campaigns, so that it's not feeling like we're going overboard and whatever. We really do tie it into like, what is that insight for the creative, for the messaging, that's a little bit more universal, right? So I don't think we've pushed personalization as far into that creepy place yet, thankfully.
Yeah, we have seen examples on a competitor lens of where you could send someone a mailing for home insurance that has a picture of their house on it, and that sometimes feels me. Is that too far? So we haven't gone down that path either, but similar, Marissa, have tried to piggyback more on those social trends and getting something out quick to respond to what that trend is and get those eyeballs on.
Caitlin, how do you anticipate future regulations impacting your data strategy at Liberty Mutual?
Yeah, so obviously tough. No one can predict the future. I would say what we do try to just focus on what is within our control. And a lot of that is just around staying nimble and flexible, not becoming too overly reliant on any one third-party data provider or tooling platform. Or if we do find ourselves heavily leveraging one, continue to keep an eye out there. There's ways to just run tests and validate, oh, there's this new tool. How accurate is their match rate, or how can we potentially use them or new or different ways, running some tests to validate there. And also just staying mindful of our processes. So if we did need to switch data providers or did need to onboard a new tool, how can we be strategic so that wouldn't become a massive time or cost prohibitive project to take on if the landscape were to shift.
And Marissa, how is Sightly future-proofing their offerings against future regulation?
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. For us, I don't want to say business as usual because we have to stay on top of changes in regulations. We have to understand when we're using first-party data, which we do for a lot of clients, what those rules are, how to do it the right way, how the platforms we also, activate on are going to change. So staying on top of that's really important. As far as our own data strategies, though, I think it's maybe somewhat business as usual for now, just because some of our solutions, again, very based in culture, contextual signals, that's a little more insulated from the changes that are happening that are specific to consumer privacy. And I do think that advertisers will increasingly test some of these more future-proof solutions, at least as part of their media strategies. Like you said, don't become overly reliant on one tool, one partner, just because you don't want to find yourself in a situation where your media plan is at risk in its entirety. So I think diversification is a big one, and testing out some new strategies that are a little bit less vulnerable to the changes. I'm biased. I think contextual is a great way to diversify that piece. But it really does come down to, like Caitlin said, staying nimble, staying on top of changes. And I think all of that applies whether you're a brand or an ad tech platform.
For sure. I know we got warned earlier today not to ask what the ROAS is, but at the end of the day, there are stakeholders who are going to ask why these data-driven strategies are worth it, why premium data might be worth it, why the lift of a new data integration might be worth it. What are some of the challenges you face in justifying the ROI of these data-driven strategies? Caitlin?
Happy to kick us off. So I'll start maybe with a win in this space. So Liberty Mutual is a very large company. We do have a lot of data, but we've worked to have really good alignment across many teams so that we are speaking that same language internally and that there's good alignment on who is that ideal consumer we're going after and what is the expected value of various consumer types that we might be bringing into the funnel, which does really make those conversations a lot easier to just start from that same baseline where everyone has that understanding. In terms of proving out the value, I think it'll be no surprise, obviously, that some media tactics have a lot more data, or it's a lot easier to tie that value back than others. When you think about someone watching a TV ad today for Liberty Mutual, they might not be shopping for that product for 6 to 12 months down the road, and how do you properly credit that back? So when we start to try to look across media tactics, that's where it becomes very challenging. But we have been excited in the past year, been working to onboard an external third-party vendor to help with our media mix and multi-touch attribution modeling. So really excited to have this as a way to help us have a more comprehensive lens as we look across tactics and how we might allocate spend across tactics in our media portfolio.
And it seems to be a bigger client acceptance of the fact that all channels are not created equal and they all have a different role. And I hope maybe after the keynote we now have permission to just say, like, when someone asks for ROAS, like, no, the answer is no.
You're killing innovation.
The answer is no. But I do think with first-party data, what came with that as well was sometimes a better look into the back end. So it became a little bit easier to see the ROAS for things like that, because at the same time, you're refining your first party, you're actually kind of linking it in and being able to see a little bit more better source of attribution, right? But I think to your point, it's all the other channels, and it's kind of setting the expectation of what other channels bring to the mix, because those are the ones that get really messy when it's not. ROAS is not right for everything, so.
Yeah, that it's interesting to hear you talk about attribution. I think that's a challenge for us because, of course, our media solutions deliver on traditional media metrics, but we're also trying to help brands build reputation, perception, consumer loyalty in the long term, and that doesn't happen overnight, right? You can't like grab that with a snapshot of a brand lift study after one isolated campaign. So it's important to have a little bit of the opportunity to work in like the patience, the discipline that might take to see through the full value of these types of efforts. Before the keynote speech, I was probably going to say something about collaboration of the industry to get our measurement to catch up. I feel a safe space has been created to say maybe it's okay that the measurement's not totally there yet, and we can, just kind of hold hands in certain instances and say like we see value in these types of approaches, whatever they might be, and that it's okay that we don't have the perfect measurement solution for those right now.
Yeah, take some risks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all for sharing your experience with us. I think we're right at time here. So, yeah, let's give them a round of applause.
Please welcome from Media Hub, EVP Managing Director Famaris Pena and SVP Group Account Director Jacqueline Gauguin.
Change it up a little bit. Hi, everyone. We're so excited to be here, and I'm honored to be joined by Jackie Gauguin. We've actually been working together for a lot of years now on the Royal Caribbean business, and we've been having a lot of fun, as you will see shortly. So today, we're going to tell you a little bit of a story on how to launch an icon, and what we mean by that. Is this my clicker? Okay. Ooh, never mind. And what we mean by icon is launching Royal Caribbean's newest ship, Icon of the Seas. So you see Royal Caribbean set out to create the travel industry's first of its kind combination of the best of every vacation. Okay, that's a very mouthful. And it's truly iconic. So let's look at, what makes this ship really iconic. Well, Icon was designed with families in mind. It can actually host up to 7,600 guests. I think this number is actually outdated. It has 20 decks, 7 pools. It has 6, record-breaking water slides. My kids would love that. Also, as a parent, their staterooms actually now accommodate families of 5 or a group of friends of 5. But really, our most favorite feature here is that Royal Caribbean brought on the first chief dog officer at sea, Rover. And Jackie's a dog mom, and that's one of her favorite features as well. So really, all of the makings of one iconic vacation, and yes, Icon of the Seas still holds the title of the world's largest cruise ship. Okay, so on to the assignment. So I'm just going to give a little bit of a context. So Icon of the Seas, this would be Royal Caribbean's first ship class in 15 years. And so if any of you understand sort of the cruise industry, with this ship class, really Icon would set the footprint and the blueprint really for all of the ships that would follow. So it was really, really tall ask and a very important moment. And so with 2-year runway, we needed to start this work in the fall of 2022. And so if any of you remember, 2022 was sort of the year of, COVID post-recovery year. We were in a sluggish economy, but it was the peak of revenge travel. So I think all of us probably buried the term post-COVID renaissance. So it was the time of post-COVID renaissance. And so we were really tasked to fulfill Royal Caribbean's ambition to not only, break through the cruise industry consideration set, but really the vacation industry's consideration set, reach out to new audiences, and really capture that pent-up demand that we were seeing in the marketplace and ultimately fill all of this capacity that we needed to fill. So with that, with 2 years runway, we needed to build anticipation and excitement for Icon of the Seas. And we needed to sustain that all the way through January 2024, when we would deliver Icon and, its first sailing, we'll set sail. So 2 years in the making. So let's get into it.
Great. So to really generate awareness with families, family travelers, and build that consideration, we knew that we needed a strong foundation that would really allow us to build and sustain that brand interest over the course of these 2 years. So to do that, we really leaned into their passions, partners, platforms that our audience can't live without, of course, starting with sports. Royal always dominates sports in the Q4, Q1 timeframe. For Icon specifically, we really leaned into the holiday timeframe. We know families are gathering, co-viewing is pretty at its highest during this timeframe. So we really leaned into that and focused on some tentpole sports games during that timeframe: NFL Thanksgiving, NBA Christmas, college bowl games following New Year's, and we even thought down to the matchups that we're playing, like Lakers Celtics during the NBA in-season tournament, or Bama and Michigan in the Rose Bowl. So we were very strategic about the places we wanted to show up where we know there would be viewership and co-viewing with families. Beyond that, we surrounded their favorite shows, binge-worthy content on top streaming platforms. But for Icon, we had to take that a step further. So to really drive attention, we worked with our partners to leverage their ad innovations and really bring to life all of the amenities and really showcase all that an Icon vacation can offer to drive that attention with this audience. And then we leaned on their number one screen with mobile-first content, interactive units, and social. And for parents, this looked like, illustrating the ultimate family vacation and content on Scary Mommy or Bustle. Or we targeted them with the interactive ads that really allowed for that product exploration and education. They could explore the ship, look at staterooms, understand a little bit more about the floor plans, all of the exciting things that their kids can do on board. And then for that younger audience, we leaned more into those immersive ad formats that allowed them to experience all they can experience on Icon. One of the Snapchat lenses actually allowed them to ride the largest water slide at sea, or a filter would turn them into a towel animal, which if you've been on a cruise, is a thing. But this is all table stakes. This is how we answer the ROAS question. And so for Icon, we knew that we needed to take that a step further. And as we counted down 100 days to Icon, we knew that we really needed to drive consideration and engagement with this family audience. To do that, we collaborated with the client very closely on identifying key filters for how we would really craft a plan that allowed us to bring to life innovative partnerships and unexpected activations. So to do that, our filters for Icon were media that needed to be as iconic and innovative as the ship itself, media that was cutting edge, meaning we needed to break through the clutter, we needed to break through the category norms, white ship syndrome, everything looks the same. How do we really stand out and differentiate, especially with this product? We needed media that was with our preferred partners where we know our audience is really engaging and frequenting on a daily basis. We needed media partners that really excited and engaged this family audience specifically. And then, of course, we needed media, in case you didn't realize, that sustained engagement over the course of the next 2 years.
Okay. So with that, as Jackie mentioned, we needed to lean into something that was, unexpected and that was memorable for our audience, the family audience that we were trying to grow within the platforms that they loved. And so together with Royal Caribbean, our client, our creative partners, the Martin Agency, we partnered with Zillow. I think we can all sort of agree that Zillow is a guilty pleasure for most of us, show of hands, whether you're, a new couple, a new family sort of starting out, whether you're empty nesters and everything in between, whether you're in the market or not, you are scrolling Zillow. I know you, I see you. And so we partnered with Zillow and we created the biggest listing on the biggest real estate site and platform, Zillow. So we started off with creating some sponsored posts on the Zillow search results as users kind of scan through, different properties and really, try to capture their attention. And upon clicking, users would be taken to the listing itself, and it was a very thorough, deep, experience where they could really explore the ship. They could really explore their next dream vacation, what they were exploring their next dream home. We had a robust, library of images that they can really take in, all the features of the ship. And also we had, very factual facts, Icon of the Seas boasts 2,800 bedrooms. It's actually 3 million square feet. And also stats like, the heating system is the sunshine and the cooling system is the ocean air. Also facts, okay? So we took it a little bit further and we created a 3D tour. So again, if you remember, this is 2 years out. This is before the ship is even built. We work with the Martin Agency to create this, high fidelity rendering so that users can really experience Icon. What was showing there was the ultimate family suite that's on the ship, where there is a slide from the second, floor to the bottom. Both Jackie and I have have experienced it, and also, up to showcasing some of the, core family areas of the ship, where the slides are, where the mini golf is, et cetera, et cetera. So you can really, really take sort of the essence of the ship and what you can expect once you get on. And so, of course, with this, we had traffic drivers, we had e-blasts, we had some supporting digital media, all things social. We also had Ryan Cernhard, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, of $1 Million Listing New York, amplify this. But what we're really proud of and what really got traction was our partnership with Zillow Gone Wild. I don't know if any of you have followed Zillow Gone Wild. The creator Samir actually posts all these extravagant and unique properties found on Zillow. And working with him was great. He actually doesn't just partner with, any brand. Like, the brand needs to fit, the bill in terms of extravagant and just wildness. And so we were able to populate the feed in good company. And he, shared it to all of his platforms, Instagram, TikTok, et cetera. And really, this is where we got a lot of traction, really going into something that's unexpected and memorable. And the results were, outstanding. We got really great, traffic and also, time spent. I mean, 5 minutes on the listing. It's pretty huge in, the competition for attention. We had 5 million image clicks. And most importantly, people were talking about it. So we had over 13 million engagements, whether it was, comments, likes, shares, et cetera. So I think this, checked the box.
Definitely. And then we talked a lot about reaching family travelers, and a key component of that audience or the family is the kids. When we were planning, we unlocked a stat that actually said 80% of parents agree their teens influence that family vacation decision. So we knew it was critical to reach this audience. We needed to really drive brand relevance and credibility, essentially, with this next-gen traveler, but we knew we had to do it on their own terms. So Metaverse was thriving at the time. We looked at Roblox, we looked at Decentraland, and we knew no matter what, we wanted to build out Icon of the Seas and really bring it to life in that universe. But what we wanted was a platform that already existed where we knew the audience was engaging. So we went to, of course, the #1 and most played gaming platform, Fortnite. What we did was we built out Icon of the Seas as a custom map on Fortnite, full rendering, you could explore the ship, but what we wanted to do was really take that a step further to drive engagement, encourage these teens to actually explore the ship, engage with the ship, play with their friends. So we created a custom game using the Fortnite game mode. I don't know if there's Fortnite people here, but Fortnite game mode prop hunt, which is essentially hide and seek, to develop Hide and See, our own custom game where you could play with your friends and you actually transform into objects across the ship. So a beach chair, a beach ball, a palm tree, you name it, you could become it to hide from the other players in the game. We had a lot of fun with this, and we drove great engagement with it. To expand it even further and really drive Fortnite players into our game, we leveraged in-game portals across other popular game modes, which I'm sure some of you have seen. And then in addition, we amplified and invited gamers and creators to actually play, stream, share across their top platforms. We reached out to a whole diverse group of creators, and we saw great engagement here, and we were able to extend the game across TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and saw some great success from it. But we have a quick little video to show you exactly how the game came to life.
This is the coolest Fortnite creative map of all time. Royal Caribbean Hide and Sea is a prop map with a replica of the largest cruise ship in the world.
Just like the ship, the map features 6 record-breaking water slides. As a prop, you can collect coins to save it for in-game items.
Go, 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 go! No way! There's even a surf simulator.
This is a chair? Yeah, I'm a chair now. Now the goal is to hide. Now I can be anything I want.
So it was a fun and engaging way to keep that audience engaged with our brand. They came, they played, they stayed. We had over 4 years worth, for 2.2 million minutes worth of gameplay, 15 minutes on average they were spending with our specific game and map. And for any Fortnite people out there, feel free to go try it out because it is still live.
Okay, so we went through sort of introducing Icon of the Seas to our core growth audiences, right? Families, teens. Yes, they do have influence. I can attest to that. But now it was time to, promote Icon's arrival to the world. And so we turned to the most international city, in the U.S., the most, the newest, the most coveted, the most viral out-of-home canvas, the Las Vegas Sphere, which really allowed us to get close to demonstrating the scale of the ship itself, and really able to, show sort of panoramic views and sort of overhead shots and really navigate, the viewers through the different neighborhoods of the ship, like the infinity, the beautiful infinity pool at the back of the ship, the slides, we've talked about them multiple times, and also some of the iconic, features that really make the ship iconic, like the Aquadome. And actually, one thing, and I would like to, give a plug to my team because this really came together kind of last minute, of course. And we, broke the record of bringing this to market from conception to execution within 8 weeks' time. And, this is typically like a 16-week process. And we were able to pull it off about a week before Icon.
Shout out to Mary O'Brien. I know you're in the room. And you helped with that.
Shout out Rapport, out-of-home buying arm. It was great. And we, actually obviously extended this, beyond just Vegas. And because of the viral nature of this, of course, amplified it on all things social. Okay. So as if that wasn't big enough to introduce Icon to the world, Royal Caribbean leaned into football fever post-World Cup and actually entered into a partnership with their hometown team, Inter Miami FC. And they also enlisted the biggest icon and athlete in the world, Lionel Messi, to be the icon of icon. And so Lionel Messi, along with the Inter Miami team, actually delivered Icon at a naming ceremony in Miami upon its arrival. And also they all came in donning their newly decorated jerseys with Royal Caribbean's crown and anchor on the jersey, as Royal Caribbean is a new front of kit sponsor. So really ended with a bang. You know, I like to say this was kind of like the convergence of two of my lives, right? Work and also, you know, our love for Messi. My husband is Argentinian. My boys love Messi, and so it was a very proud moment. I got to say, you know, from Fortnite to this, it was one of those things that, you know, my kids were excited and very, you know, worked up it. They were very proud of, and so, but really, all of this kind of came together, you know, through the efforts of not only, you know, our clients, our creative partners, the Martin Agency, and of course, our magnificent team at Dry Dock at Media Hub. But wait, there's more.
The results speak for themselves. Over 1 billion paid impressions, 800 million earned impressions. They had the largest social growth of all cruise brands during this time frame, which was enough to fill the ship 39 times. I attest part of that to Chief Rover. And then, of course, they broke all booking records in their 53-year brand history, which is obviously huge for them. But it was a great success all around. I think it was a great culmination to show innovation, partnership, data, hardworking media, and how that all comes together. But we have a quick video that just summarizes the Icon campaign.
Royal Caribbean built the world's largest cruise ship. It's really big, bigger than this big and this big. Icon of the Seas presented an even bigger business challenge: fill the ship. How do you create a media plan for the world's largest cruise ship? Simple. Our media had to be as big as the ship itself. We started on the biggest property site with the biggest listing ever, including 3D tours to explore top amenities. Zillow Gone Wild loved it. Next, we brought Icon to the biggest video game and enlisted the biggest gamers to explore the ship with them.
No way! There's even a surf simulator!
Yeah, I'm a chair now.
We took over one of the biggest social apps using augmented reality to immerse them in the biggest water park ever seen at sea. And we virtually set sail from the biggest party city on the world's biggest screen.
Two icons joining forces.
Finally, we brought the biggest name in soccer, Lionel Messi, on board for a naming ceremony and aired in the biggest games. Our results? Even bigger. Royal Caribbean had its biggest booking day ever and sold out Icon's inaugural sailing in 24 hours, proving our audience wanted in, big time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Please welcome President of the Ad Club, Barb Riley.
Hi, everyone. I'll be really quick because there's cocktails waiting. First, I want to say a thank you to the sponsors. I always feel like sponsors don't get the credit that they deserve when they sponsor events, and we rely so heavily on them. So I would like to take a moment. Boston Globe Media, Gupta Media, Havas Media Network, Lyft Media, Later, Media Hub, Media Now, MK3, NBC Universal, Sightly, and WBUR with this space. I really would love to just say thank you, pay attention to them, know that they support this community. I also want to say the speakers today, what a broad array of speakers from media, brand side, client side, in-house agency, new elements within clients. All of our partners here today speaking brought such innovation. Earlier today, MK3 asked me a question why I love Media Innovation Day, and quite frankly, on the CMO side of the house, I was working a lot in innovation of product development for brands that I was employed by. And watching innovation in a product side isn't all that different than watching innovation in media. You can't do it in a room in your office all by yourself. And what I really love about Media Innovation Day is we get outside of our worlds and we come together and we hear from others and we talk and we go home maybe and think about more practical steps or things that you could do from what you've seen. And I always think the word innovation is so giant, sometimes overwhelming, but when you look at the media innovation presented today, it's from first-party data, it's from example, Wayfair coming up with changing their business model. Innovation came from that. Innovation came from Royal Caribbean have a ship, and they had 2 years to figure out how do we promote this behemoth and reach our audience. I think that there's so many ways today you learned about how innovation can be done that you can walk away and think yourself about how to innovate. And of course, we started the day with Gogi flipping innovation on its head and talking about thinking about innovation and creating that culture for it differently. I'm sure when people go back and say, we don't need to think about ROAS anymore, Gogi's going to get a lot of notes. But that being said, I love getting together for Media Innovation Day because it does get you out of your office. It does get you to collaborate with these great minds, and it shows how our community can bolster each other. So that's what I love about it. I also want to thank the Ad Club team, who is constantly, by the way, never listens to me and loves to challenge me, Gogi. So I would say that that might be the exception. They always tell me what to do. Thank you to the Ad Club team. Thank you to all of you for taking a couple of hours out of your day and coming to the Ad Club Media Innovation Day. Gogi, you said some really nice words, but really the truth of the matter is I am really only representing this phenomenal city and region and this incredible marketing industry that I love so much. And when I see all of you come out like this, it reminds me how amazing our community is. So thank you so much for being here. Let's go have a drink.